Good morning, everyone. My name is Giuseppe Perretti from the European Association of Paritarian Institutions, and welcome to this final EMEcs project conference, which will cover the existing pandemic, the exiting from the pandemic, and findings and proposals for fair and safe mobility in the construction sector. As you all know, the EMEcs project aims to identify and tackle the difficulties that posted workers, especially in the construction sector, faced during the pandemic when posting abroad. And today we will see actually the project results, few policy recommendations, and today's discussion will build on 3 roundtables covering the main areas covered by the project. First of all, health and safety measures to prevent and tackle COVID-19 at work, social protection and opportunities from vocational training, and last but not the least, opportunities from digitalization. So today's meeting, as you could see, is recorded. Please feel free to make questions, raising your hand and writing in the chat. I will do my best to gather all of your questions and give you the floor. And now I give the floor to Giovanni Carapella, director of the CNCE, the leader of the consortium of the project. So Giovanni, the floor is yours.
Good morning all. Just a little welcome to all. I will speak at the end of the meeting to make some consideration about all the project. Final consideration, we don't lose other time. I give to Giuseppe the word. I will also give thanks to the representative of 10 countries that are signed in registered in this meeting, and to all the participants. Giuseppe, a te la parola.
Grazie Giovanni. So without further ado, we can open the first roundtable on health and safety measures to prevent and tackle COVID-19 at work in the construction sector. We have here today 2 speakers, Gazmend Llanaj, OSH health and safety expert and member of the Health and Safety Paritarian Territorial Committee of Bologna, CPTO, as well as Fernando Vidau, from Inspector on Health and Safety in Spain, responsible for the COPREVAS platform. So I would like to give the floor now to Gazmend. And the Gazmend, I would like first of all to ask you if you can briefly introduce the main aspect of the Italian protocols on health and safety at work, including the role of social partners, and describe your impression on the actual application. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I heard something. Sorry, Gazmend. And so yeah, which is your point of view on the actual application and advice on the ground from your experience on the field? Thank you, Gazmend.
Yeah. Good morning to everyone. Sorry, just a second. I'm going to block my phone. Okay. Well, I'd like to make a really short chronology of what happened at the beginning with the protocol and with the rules that we used to have and to decide and to apply in especially in the construction sector. The first protocol on COVID dates back on March 14 in 2020. As we all know, in every country there were some differences, of course, but in Italy the first one dates in 14 March. And this was the first one that dealt with all the productive sectors and activities. And the second one, that is the one that we are interested much more, is the specific construction protocol that dates back to April 24 the same year, of course. And after 2 or 3 days, it became a decree, a ministerial decree that was in April 26. What was the specific characteristics of the protocol? It was something done together in a kind of triangle, let's say, made by the government, by the employers associations, and the labor unions also. And this was important because everyone was proactive in deciding what to do, how to manage the COVID at the very beginning. And it was really important because giving and being active parts, every one of the three parts, the important parts that participated on building the protocols, was involved and considered responsible also to find the best ways to apply then the protocols. And there were some specific things at the beginning, at the very beginning, a lot of fear and problems to face, to understand how to really apply a pandemic protocol in the building sector. And after a while, it became clear that it was not so difficult to apply it. Of course, confronting it with other productive sectors and activities. Let's think about the hospitals or other places where normally we have a lot of people inside and all together. In the building sector, in the construction sites, this is not a big problem, and this was a good and a strong point for the sector, in the sense that the protocols were seeing it after all the story. It was easy to apply them and to use them in the building sector. And all these 2 years that we have lived with the protocols have been, in a certain sense, I'm talking always about the sector, the building sector, the construction sector, there has been a kind of stability of rules, and this was helpful and positive, because the daily procedures and the methods in the workplace were quite the same in all the years, while all the rest have been, as we know, in every country, a kind of continuous stop and go of new rules and the changing of the things. In the building sector, the protocols have been helpful because nothing was changed. Of course, at the general and national and international level, there has been always differences in the last 2 years, but the definition, the daily things to do and to respect and to apply were quite the same, and this has been positive for our sector, of course. And let me say something more about what happened with the pandemic and with the protocols. The protocols were also used and have been very useful in the construction sector, because we have another problem that is not so much known and so much considered in our sector. That is generally the chemical and biological risk. Of course, talking to the pandemic, we know that it was not a problem generated by the construction work environment and the risks that are present normally in the construction site. But at the other part, the precautionary measures that were indicated in the regulations that concerned everyone was also were useful to make grow the awareness about the other risks that are not external or exogenous, but are really inside the building sector and inside the process of the building. For example, the dust, the chemical risk and also biological risk that has to do with a lot of materials that we use. Let me say, just for as an example, the nanotechnological new risk that we have using new materials, new nano technological materials in the construction sites. And all this rules used about the, and for the pandemic were also useful for growing the sensibility of the sector, of all the actors of the process, of the building process, to deal also with other kinds of risks. And this has been something really useful. And of course, applying the protocols, there have been a lot of problems, we know, in every country, and in Italy also, not so much controls. This was due to the fair and to the avoiding the in-presence meetings, and also the institutions were lacking and have been in lack related with the control. But at the other hand, for the construction sector, it has been present in every province in Italy since at the beginning, when the protocols were introduced, a committee of controlling and applying, and having also a kind of counseling role for all the companies, for the persons, etc. And this has been really useful. This local committee has been really useful in every place, not so much for the controlling part, because this was one of the objectives, of the aims that the protocols had. But as a point of reference for deciding new specific procedures, or having advices about specific situation, etc. And this has been a positive point in the management, in the general management of the pandemic in the building sector. And also another focus point can be the fact that the procedures were, and the protocols were to apply, and at the beginning, but also during the 2 or quite 3 years now of managing the pandemic, it has been sometimes not so clear who had to control the everyday application of the protocols. For example, in Italy, it was asked at the beginning to the commitment to the owner that pays the company that will build something, a new building. That means that someone that has nothing to do with the building site directly, but is the financial point, let's say, has to control. And then after it was passed to the control role was passed to the coordinators of safety coordinators on the building site. And after it it passed to the company itself, and to the inner control of the company, and all the application of the everyday rules and procedures were left to the company itself, and to the inner system structure and roles that the company has. Okay, for now, I think
that's all. Thank you very much, Gazmend. No, very good to hear that, yeah, despite this, we can say almost jeopardization of companies since they are responsible for health and safety, good to see that actually protocols worked during the pandemic. And also, thank you very much for mentioning also chemical and the chemical and biological risk, because that's very interesting. If, for example, remember, as you mentioned, the danger of dust, a project, I remember a project led by social partners in the construction sector on silica dust. And one of the main recommendations, of course, was the that was compulsory to wear masks on the work site, and in that reason, it was almost kind of step forward already of the sector being prepared for the COVID-19 pandemic already in wearing masks on the construction site. And so yeah, thank you very much for mentioning that. That's very interesting. Let's move now to Fernando, and let's see this time another experience on the field, but from the perspective of an inspectorate. So thank you very much, Fernando, for being with us today. And just to mention that during the project, we had the chance to analyze the COPREVAS platform to support construction site visits. And we appreciate very much your work and the characteristic of this platform. So a question for you would be if you can tell us your experience from visits in construction sector, in construction sites during the pandemic, and what do you think worked and what didn't work in terms of actual implementation of measures to tackling COVID-19? And in your opinion, to conclude, which are for you the main takeaways from the COVID-19 experience in relation to health and safety at work? Please, the floor is yours, Fernando. I don't see. Fernando? Fernando, you're muted. Sorry.
¿Ahora?
We can hear you perfectly. Thank you very much, Fernando.
Gracias. Bien, primero, supongo que tiene algún conocimiento ya, se han explicado un poco cómo es nuestro funcionamiento aquí en esta pequeña parte de España, en Asturias, en el norte, porque nuestro trabajo sí nos permitió en esa época conocer la realidad de cómo funcionaba, de cómo estaban afrontando las empresas este problema. Lo digo porque en nuestro trabajo se trata de hacer visitas de inspección en las obras de construcción, control de contratación de trabajadores y control de las medidas de seguridad y salud. Y lo hacemos sin ningún tipo de aviso previo ni notificación, con lo cual digamos que eso nos permite ver la realidad cruda de la obra en el momento, ¿verdad? Y además visitamos todo tipo de construcciones, ya sea la construcción de una autovía o una carretera, como una reforma de una vivienda, de lo más grande a lo más pequeño. Y todo tipo de empresas, por tanto. Tuvimos la gran ventaja de que en ese momento, con la limitación que había de movimientos, aquí en España fue de los países en los cuales más se limitó el movimiento de personas. Nosotros teníamos total libertad para recorrer el territorio e inspeccionar las obras de construcción. Casi diría como anecdótico o asunto un poco a estudiar, recuerdo la sensación de salir a trabajar con el coche, y aparte de, por supuesto, haber muy poca gente en la calle, esa sensación de circular despacio, de todas las pocas personas que podían circular en coche, ir despacio como si estuviéramos haciendo algo malo, como si fuéramos casi delincuentes. Y recuerdo que esa sensación se trasladaba a las obras, o sea, en las prisas habituales se transformaban en cierta pausa y tranquilidad a la hora de trabajar, lo cual no sé si es algo a estudiar, no sé si sería incluso hasta algo bueno, aunque evidentemente no queremos que se repita. Bien, entrando un poco en la pregunta, cosas que se hicieron bien. Bien, aquí en España se elaboraron con bastante velocidad una serie de protocolos consensuados entre la patronal, las asociaciones de empresarios de construcción y los sindicatos, representantes de los trabajadores, que ayudaron mucho a la implementación de medidas en las obras de construcción, implementación de medidas por parte de las empresas contratistas, de los constructores, de los empresarios. Se elaboró una guía de actuación en materia preventiva por causa del COVID-19 el 8 de abril del 2020, ya digo, bastante rápido, que se trasladó de inmediato a todas las empresas y que utilizaron como guía para elaborar documentación específica en cada una de las obras. Documentación que también para dar mayor agilidad no se integraba necesariamente en el plan de seguridad, sino que se consideraban como anexos y que por lo tanto tampoco necesitaba de la aprobación del coordinador de seguridad. Sencillamente eran protocolos elaborados por las empresas de aplicación directa. Se elaboró también aquí en nuestra comunidad autónoma, en Asturias, se elaboró por parte del gobierno de esta comunidad un documento técnico sobre rehabilitaciones, reformas y obras en viviendas habitadas. Aquí hubo un problema, porque sí, durante prácticamente un mes se prohibió la realización de obras de construcción en lugares en los cuales hubiera habitantes. Y más que afectar a rehabilitaciones de viviendas, sobre todo afectaba a las obras en lugares comunes de edificios, sobre todo obras de eliminación de barreras arquitectónicas, típica instalación de ascensores en edificios de viviendas, en los cuales el personal de la empresa interactuaba con los vecinos. Y eso, bueno, evidentemente se trataba de limitar todo tipo de contactos y, por lo tanto, esas obras en la práctica se prohibieron. Esta guía, elaborada en el Principado de Asturias, detallaba qué tipo de obras se tenían que limitar y, en todo caso, en aquellas que se podían seguir trabajando, las medidas de seguridad que deberían adoptarse para no contagiar a los vecinos de los edificios. Tengo que decir que esto se cumplió prácticamente a rajatabla, se cumplió muy bien por parte de las empresas. Ese tipo de obras quedaron paradas durante prácticamente un mes, salvo quizás algunas excepciones justificadas, porque bueno, estamos hablando quizás de la instalación de un ascensor en un edificio de bastantes alturas con gente mayor que sí o sí necesitaba, por ejemplo, ir a la compra. Y sí se permitió, por ejemplo, ahí que parte de las obras se finalizaran para terminar de instalar, por ejemplo, un ascensor y que los vecinos pudieran salir a la calle. Así que, bueno, se cumplió con bastante rigor y se hicieron excepciones donde se tenían que hacer. Yo creo que eso se hizo bien. Bien, algo más que nosotros vimos en lo que se actuó. Bueno, creo que se ha comentado anteriormente, las obras de construcción tienen una ventaja o tenían una ventaja respecto a otros centros de trabajo, y es que son lugares generalmente ventilados, ¿no? Son obras o que están en exterior, al aire libre, o en todo caso lugares casi siempre abiertos, salvo que estemos en la fase final de una edificación donde ya se han instalado los cerramientos, las ventanas y las puertas. El caso es que en general son lugares ventilados y tampoco suele haber o necesariamente hay una gran proximidad entre los trabajadores. Digamos que cada uno hace su labor y no siempre están cercanos unos a otros. ¿Dónde existía de verdad el riesgo de contagio y dónde se hizo incidencia? En las zonas comunes de vestuarios, comedores o servicios de los trabajadores. Ahí es donde de verdad había un problema. Y creo que en buena medida también se actuó correctamente. Para la entrada y salida del lugar de trabajo, para utilizar las instalaciones de vestuarios, se hacían turnos, los necesarios 2 o 3 turnos para que los trabajadores se pudieran cambiar con cierta distancia entre ellos. Para las horas de comida se hacía lo mismo, se hacían turnos para que los trabajadores estuvieran alejados. Hay que tener en cuenta que además el sector de la restauración, los restaurantes, estaban cerrados y por lo tanto los trabajadores no podían comer como habitualmente se hace en restaurantes cercanos, tenían que comer en la obra. Por lo tanto, la implantación de estos turnos de comidas la verdad es que fue necesario. Se ampliaron también el uso de servicios, de lavabos. Si ya por obligación los tiene que haber en la obra, en ese caso se instalaron, donde fue necesario, se instalaron algunos más. E incluso hubo empresas que cambiaron los turnos de trabajo. Quiero decir, lo habitual es un turno, un horario de trabajo partido, con un horario para comer, y muchas empresas lo que decidieron fue hacer una jornada continua, de forma que los trabajadores se pudieran marchar antes, generalmente el horario solía ser hasta las 3 de la tarde, y poder ir a comer a su casa, con lo cual había menos interacción entre los trabajadores también. Eso lo hicieron unas cuantas empresas, algunos lo mantuvo durante bastante tiempo, y creo que fue una buena medida. Bien, también desde luego se vio que se utilizaron mucho más a la entrada, al comienzo de los trabajos, materiales higiénicos como el famoso gel hidroalcohólico o la toma de temperatura de los trabajadores para ver si alguno de ellos podía tener fiebre. Esto se hizo en bastantes obras. Todo esto que estamos hablando también hay que tener en cuenta. Evidentemente, no todas las empresas son iguales y el factor determinante suele ser el tamaño de la empresa. Las medianas y las grandes, que tienen más medios y más organización para afrontar cualquier tipo de problema como este, evidentemente cumplían mucho más con las medidas de seguridad y las medidas higiénicas, sobre todo. Las empresas pequeñas tenían sus dificultades. Dentro de sus posibilidades, cumplir, yo creo que sabiendo cómo es el sector y lo que pueden hacer estas empresas, yo creo que hubo voluntad, ¿vale? Otra cosa es que en algún caso no tuvieran capacidad para cumplir con todo. Bien, como comentaba, después esta documentación que elaboraban las empresas para gestionar el control del COVID en sus propias obras, hubo mucho problema al principio, porque se pensaba que tenía que seguir una serie de procedimientos, igual que el plan de seguridad y salud de la obra, que tenía que ser aprobado por el coordinador de seguridad, lo cual generaba más trámites y más lentitud. Enseguida se decidió que eso no era así, que directamente las empresas lo elaborarían y lo implementarían, sin necesidad de aprobación por parte de un tercero. En cuanto, quizás en aquella época, en esta zona donde estamos nosotros, en Asturias, no, respecto a los trabajadores desplazados, quiero decir, no había mucho trabajador desplazado. Digamos que todavía el sector de la construcción venía de una época de recuperación respecto a la crisis anterior. Y así como anteriormente, sí, aquí había bastantes empresas del sector que venían de otras partes de Europa, en ese momento no había muchas, con lo cual no podemos contar mucha experiencia sobre esto. Sí había algunas empresas de otras partes de España que en ese caso podemos decir que tuvieron la ventaja de que, a pesar de que la mayor parte de los hoteles estaban cerrados, sí había una norma que permitía abrir algunos de ellos precisamente para trabajadores desplazados. Se pensaba mucho en los transportistas, pero a las empresas de construcción les vino muy bien el poder utilizar hoteles prácticamente vacíos para sus trabajadores. Bueno, ¿qué podemos decir que quizás no funcionó? Que también lo ha habido. Bueno, como decía, las empresas pequeñas tuvieron más problemas para implementar estas medidas de control. Al principio, el clásico problema de las mascarillas. Bueno, eso fue tremendo. Lo primero, no las había, evidentemente. Todos recordamos, no había mascarillas. Lo segundo, cuando las había, no sabían usarlas. Usaban mascarillas no adecuadas que ellos tenían, por ejemplo, para trabajos de pintura o mascarillas con filtros químicos contra disolventes, cualquier tipo de objeto que llevarse a la boca que parecía que protegía, ¿no? Lo cual, pues sabemos que no era válido, mascarillas con válvula, ese tipo de cosas. Nosotros al principio, intentando cumplir a rajatabla o cumplir estrictamente con la normativa, pedíamos mascarillas con filtro de partículas FFP2. bueno, evidentemente tuvimos que rebajar las pretensiones desde el principio y nos conformábamos con ver cualquier tipo de mascarilla higiénica, ¿no? Pero teníamos que ver cómo efectivamente el personal o no disponía de ellas o directamente nos veían venir y se pasaban las mascarillas unos a otros, tipo, ¿no tienes mascarilla? Toma, te dejo yo la mía, sucia, llena de polvo. Tiene que decir esto, por favor, no lo uséis, no pasa nada. Eso podéis dejarla. Es mejor que no uséis mascarilla que uséis eso que te quieres poner en la boca, ¿verdad? Ese tipo de cosas que ahora vemos como ahora todos sabemos sobre eso, ¿no? Pero eso ocurrió de verdad. O sea, había una falta de formación que, bueno, espero que eso, si vuelve a ocurrir algo parecido, ahora es algo que tenemos muy avanzado. Otra cosa que me llama la atención, porque en los protocolos que he hablado antes, que se elaboraron en consenso entre los empresarios y los trabajadores, se hablaba de que se recomendaba el uso de un control de acceso en las obras, quiero decir, un registro del personal de trabajadores que cada día entraba en las obras y salía. Por ejemplo, nosotros mismos, como inspectores, éramos personas externas a la empresa que en un momento dado entrábamos y había una necesidad de saber quién había estado en contacto con quién para hacer un seguimiento de posibles contagios. Eso, si en algún caso alguna empresa lo realizaba, pero creo que eso se podría haber hecho mejor. Las empresas grandes lo hacían, las empresas medianas algunas, pero no era un control muy estricto. Creo que sobre eso se podría haber mejorado. Y al margen de las medidas de seguridad e higiene, algo en lo que creo que quizás es un tema un poco aparte, pero en lo que desde luego creo que se debería mejorar en el caso de que algo similar volviera a ocurrir, es en el problema que hubo de rotura de stocks y los problemas en la cadena de suministros de materiales. Cuando esto sucedió y sobre todo en los meses posteriores, bueno, aquí ocurrió, supongo que en todas partes, hubo una carencia de materias primas por culpa de la paralización de las fábricas que supuso dos problemas. Efectivamente, la escasez posterior de materias primas y la subida de precios. Materiales, todos lo sabemos, tipo la madera y demás, como hubo un momento en que no había o el precio se había multiplicado por 2, ¿verdad? Bueno, eso es algo a tener en cuenta si algo así vuelve a suceder. Añadiría como dato el miedo que tenían las empresas no tanto a los contagios como a las cuarentenas. El problema no era ya que un trabajador estuviera contagiado o que su familia, o que en su familia hubiera alguien contagiado. El problema era que el hecho de que en su familia hubiera alguien contagiado suponía el confinamiento de ese trabajador y probablemente de todo el equipo de trabajo que trabajaba con él. Y eso sí ocasiona muchos problemas de producción en las obras. Porque sí tengo que decir que las obras en general no pararon de trabajar. Muy pocas pararon de trabajar. No fue uno de los sectores, entiendo yo, que más afectado se vio por la pandemia. Y es más, como dato también a tener en cuenta, sí nos comentaban todas las empresas, y lo vimos, incluso la subida de carga de trabajo por la demanda de particulares que empezaron a pedir presupuestos para la construcción de viviendas unifamiliares y de edificios, sobre todo la demanda de pisos con terrazas, con lo cual nos vimos sorprendidos al ver que muchas empresas no daban abasto para hacer presupuestos y después para realizar obras. Quizás, bueno, fue un pequeño boom que quizás no se haya mantenido, pero sí es algo que ocurrió. Y también vimos cómo se construían y se vendían viviendas en zonas rurales para gente que venía desde las ciudades de cualquier parte de España, que se desplazaban a vivir, a teletrabajar y a traer a sus hijos a las escuelas en los pueblos. Quizás no fue algo que fue masivo, pero desde luego sí lo notamos, y sobre todo lo notábamos en cómo las empresas vendían viviendas a este tipo de personas. Bueno, no sé, este es un resumen de lo que nosotros hemos visto en esta temporada. Detalles, no sé, a tener en cuenta.
Thank you. Yeah.
No oigo.
Giuseppe, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Is always the microphone. I forgot to unmute myself. After the pandemic, I didn't learn. But thank you very much, Fernando. I was just saying that you provided us with a very interesting and clear picture of a regional reality, in this case, Asturias. But I think that almost everyone here can say that this situation that you mentioned was often reflected in also the regions in Europe. And also your presentation gave us also the idea on the importance of protocols on health and safety, for example, and how much is important to be informed about health and safety rules on the workplace. It's, I think, very explicative the case that you mentioned of workers passing the used mask to each other. But also very good to hear about good practices like ventilation, and also the shifting of common areas. I will now ask to the audience, since we are at the end of this roundtable, if there are questions, you can use the chat, or you can also raise your hand.
Giuseppe, se posso dire una cosa io?
Certamente.
Sì, no, mi sembra interessante. Ringrazio Fernando Vidau per ha ripercorso un po' le problematiche che abbiamo vissuto tutti in Europa. Ricordo che la prima cassa edile che si è dotata di mascherine, quella di Frosinone, le ha commissionate ad una sarta che faceva le mascherine per distribuire agli operai, fatte più strati di tessuto. E quindi ricordiamo queste fasi. Mi sembra che lui abbia sottolineato un punto che è un oggetto di riflessione, cioè la maggiore difficoltà delle imprese piccole e medie, che sono poi la grande maggioranza delle imprese delle costruzioni in molti paesi, in generale in Europa, rispetto alle grandi, ad adattarsi a tutti questi obblighi e queste esigenze di applicare rigidamente e seriamente questi protocolli. Su questo vorrei capire se altri partner e altri ospiti hanno qualcosa da aggiungere.
Grazie, Giovanni. Thank you very much, Giovanni. So yeah, I don't know if anyone would like to add on what Giovanni proposed. I think is a very, indeed, interesting point of reflection. If not, we can keep it for even for later discussion. If no one would like to add anything. And so thank you very much, Giovanni. Thank you, Gazmend and Fernando. We can move now to the second roundtable of this conference on social protection and opportunities for vocational training. And I'm happy to give now the floor to Feliciano Iudicone from the Joint National Committee for Building Workers Welfare Funds, CNCE, and Feliciano, who was the director behind the scenes of this project. Can you introduce us which were the main gaps in social protection for posted workers during the pandemic and how the project proposes to tackle them?
Thanks a lot, Giuseppe. Yeah, actually the project tried to understand which were the problems from a social protection perspective, adopting quite a broad scope. So in terms of social protection, we investigated access and adequacy of some specific benefits which were key during the pandemic. And I'm talking about sickness benefits in case of quarantine, with usually were simply an add-on on the were simply equiparated to sickness benefits, short-time work schemes, but then we also extended the view on other kind of aids other kind of aids that were important during the pandemic, like food aids, since many posted workers remain blocked without work in their host country, so that could become a necessary source of help, or even to access to vaccines, as we are talking here about workers that could stay few months, so they don't have to register actually at the National Health Service. They might be covered with the AS1 form, but this might even not be the case yet. At the time, I will remember last year, staying in a country for 3, 4, 6, 8 months without having the opportunity to vaccinate could be a problem during the peaks of the pandemic, and once vaccines were finally becoming available. So what did we find? So problems were manifold. Likely not in all countries. We had also some good practices, but trying to pinpoint the main issues, we can say that in some countries we found some formal exclusion of posted workers from accessing benefits, and there we are talking, for instance, on sick pay. It was the sick pay, so the pay due by the employer in case of sickness. This was the case, for instance, in Germany, due to legislation approximating the directives on posting. In other cases, likely this has not happened, as in most countries there were legislation stating that on an extraordinary basis, the state was phasing in from the very first day of sickness. So the social security institutes were paying for the sickness, even if under normal circumstances they do not. So this was not the case in Germany and in Italy, actually. In Italy, we saw an exclusion from the sickness benefit paid in case of quarantine to workers posted from the country. So basically, there was probably misinterpretation of legislation, or legislation was not clear enough. But basically what happened was that you were entitled to quarantine benefit, to sickness benefits in case of quarantine, if this was mandated by the local health authorities, the so-called ASL. And this was interpreted, meaning that if this quarantine is mandated by foreign health authorities, this is not applicable. So this was the case in Spain, for instance, in Portugal, in other countries, this has not happened. And this line of thinking, so that if we are under a similar situation, the pandemic is the same across all Europe, you are mandated quarantine, this applies, and you are entitled to the benefit, regardless of whether this is mandated by the authority of your home country or host country. I think this interpretation shall apply in case of actual emergencies, and this sounds quite more in line with the aims and contents of Regulation 883 on the coordination of social security benefits. Other problems encountered, again, as anticipated, were some restriction on food aids that in some cases were available only for people residing in the country. And again, here we're not talking about food aids in general supplied under normal circumstances and about social assistance. We are talking about emergency aids in a situation whereby, especially during the first months, workers could really be stuck in the host country without against their will in a way, because it's too complicated to come back, or etc. So in fact, these decisions that were basically by municipalities, including, it was not so clear, but including the municipality of Rome, for instance, they were brought against court by associations of lawyers, and they were banned. So again, this should be thing that hopefully we'll not see again in case of such a similar circumstances, because in times of emergency, everybody who is on your soil should be protected from indigency. We don't want them to die because of the pandemic, nor because of starving. And then we had problems concerning the doubts over the application of rules. So here we are not anymore in the field of formal exclusion, but still companies themselves didn't know how to behave. This was reported also by some interviewees at EU level. So for instance, how to treat quarantine. If you send an employee abroad, this is quarantined by host authorities for 14 days, should be paid for work, should be entitled to unemployment, temporary unemployment, sickness, how is this to be treated? This was not 100% clear, so maybe in the future EU guidance or national level guidance could better specify that, even if from, considering also guidance on working time, European Court of Justice ruling on that, this should be, you are still at disposal of your employer, no? So you are sent to work there and the rules are known, so you are stopped from working because of decision which is not yours, so you should be probably paid by the employer, but this is still an interpretation which should need some confirmation or rebuttal by possibly a reading in legislation. Finally, a last problem concerned inadequacy. Sickness pay, short-time work schemes were introduced, by the way, even in countries where they were not in place before the pandemic. So we can say that already the pandemic, among the positive sides, had a kind of leveling, at least in times of emergency, of protection against temporary unemployment. Nevertheless, we still face considerable differences in income, which is the income which is used as a basis in the different countries to then compute the amount of the benefits. So the case could be you were stuck in a host country with a considerable higher living cost, but then you were eligible to, in line with rules, you were eligible to benefits applicable in the sending country, computed on the income you get there. You usually get there. So in this respect, we are proposing to have to take stock from the pandemic in order to propose better European legislation, trying to set some minimum standard for the schemes, so guaranteeing that they will prosecute after the pandemic in countries where they were not in place, and trying more in general to reach some social and economic convergence, which would also, by the way, remove even the roots for trying to use posting as a fraudulent scheme, besides, of course, guaranteeing better protection in the future. So more or less, those are all the proposal on this aspect. I would add also about vaccines, as in some cases you had to reside or to be registered to the National Health Service. Maybe in the future, of course, we're not talking here about standard vaccines that you can take at any time, or if you're going to travel in some risk countries, but for vaccines provided in times of emergency, maybe we could use the European health insurance card to make sure that workers abroad can still get their vaccine in the country where they are temporarily posted or where they temporarily live. And those were most recommendation in terms of social protection. There are others that I did not mention, maybe some other partners or Giovanni will mention later. And of course, if there are questions on the problems or on the proposals, me and the partners are here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Feliciano, for this very clear overview. I would give now the floor to Luisa Veloso from the University Institute of Lisbon. So, Luisa, starting from what Feliciano said and his overview, it seems that it was not always easy for posted workers to access benefits from the host countries. Could you tell us the experience that you faced in Portugal?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Giuseppe. So just, well, what happened in Portugal is has a lot of common aspects with the ones that already were mentioned here concerning Spain, and also with what Feliciano told us. Actually, we did not identify any particular difficulties in the access to the supports needed. In what concerns the Portuguese workers that were posted abroad, in general, they reported that there were no problems except 1 or 2 cases of Portuguese workers who were in Belgium, that were posted in Belgium. But actually, as there is, of course, the European framework that allowed for the workers to have access to all the the support. The main situation was particularly complementing what Feliciano was telling when they returned to Portugal and they had to do quarantine. So when they come, posted workers coming to Portugal, and during quarantine they didn't have any specific financial support. So this is what was one question and one difficulty. But yeah, in quarantine mainly, posted workers that came to work in Portugal had access to the subvention legally determined by law. So I think that Portugal, everybody is telling that it's really like a very, how would I say, exemplary case in Europe. Of the supports that were given to the construction sector are not particular to the construction, but general to all the economic activities. But it was very important that since the beginning there was all the articulation and collaboration between the inspection, the professional associations, the business association, the unions. And so the construction sites were obliged to prepare and to carry out all the measures and all the subventions that they had to give to the workers. So actually, I would say that very briefly, except this question of the quarantine, where there was really this problem of not having specific financial support, and they had to do it, of course. Well, the construction sector never stopped, and besides all the aspects that were already mentioned, considering the control, the meals, the masks, well, that our colleague from Spain already mentioned, there was a very controlled process. And so workers posted from Portugal also to another member state. They carried, of course, the Portugal document A1, and they were subject to the Portuguese social security system. So they have exactly the same rights as workers that were exercising activity in Portugal, including the exceptional measures. I think it's more or less this. I don't know if you want me to develop anything else.
No, I think everything is clear, Luisa. Maybe we can see, maybe at the end of the other presentation, we can gather all the inputs and see where we can go more into the details, unless you have anything you would like to mention now, as you prefer.
Well, considering your question, I think that's it. So it's like, I think in the overall, the balance is really positive, because it happened with all the economic sectors in Portugal, and not only with the construction. Well, people, the workers that are going abroad and the workers that come to Portugal, it was like there was a concern in assuring all the rights.
Okay, thank you very much. I see a question. Maybe you can take it right now, if you're okay with it, Luisa.
Reimbursed by the countries of origin similar to health insurance coordination. I'm not sure I really understand. Could you elaborate a little bit more?
Maybe, I don't know if Mr. Petzold can take quickly, can speak, can ask directly.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
The point is that in health insurance things, when someone who comes from a foreign country is in a country, is treated in the country where he is as if he were insured there. And if there are additional costs, then there is an exchange, kind of reimbursement between the home country health insurance and the host country health insurance. And now my question is, when you have added these hosted workers into your system for the emergency measures, whether there was any reimbursement of things which should have been paid by the host country, because it's strange that on the one hand, these people try to avoid paying to your system, and at the same time you help them because it's an emergency. And all of that just because you're so good. And so that's why I wonder whether there is some kind of reimbursement between the systems in order to put it more on a more balanced way.
I wouldn't say that it was really a reimbursement, but as Portugal, as other countries, received financial help from the European Union, and everything. Well, the possibility of the workers posted in Portugal were like they were covered by the European health insurance card, and so, including in Portugal, they had the same treatment as all the others.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Professor. Thank you very much, Luisa. So now we can move forward. And today we have several sectoral funds in the construction in our consortium, and whose role have evolved during the pandemic since new benefits were introduced and assistance was provided to ensure income stability and health and safety. Today, as I mentioned, we have also Miss Andrea Iliescu from the Romanian Social House of Builders. And so, Andrea, I would like to give you the floor, and if you can explain us which benefits have your institution introduced during the pandemic.
Hello, yes. Thank you. Do you hear me well?
We hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you. During the pandemic, as our institution was established under a law number 2017 from 1997, we usually grant allowances for bad weather conditions when the construction companies stop or interrupt their activity. Legislation modification happened, and we were allowed to grant allowances also for the member companies that interrupted activities due to the measure imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Concretely, we offered allowances for the employees of the construction companies that were members of our organizations and were employed on the basis of an individual labor contract. They had to also contribute to the fund, as the employer had to contribute also. And what we actually granted was an allowance of 75% of the average for the last 3 months of the gross basic salary during the emergency alert period. And we granted it for the period of interruption of activity. Along with paying the allowances, we also covered the income taxes and mandatory social contributions due by the employee and the employers for the amount of the granted allowances. Also, the employees that were under social protection kept their jobs during the interruption of the activity, because while we're in social protection, the interruption of their labor contract for reasons related to limitation or interruption or activity was banned by the law. And they also preserved their entitlements deriving from their status as construction employees, like seniority at work, social insurance rights, and tax rebates. Now, as regards the availability for the posted workers, the benefit was available for the workers posted from or to Romania, provided his or her company registered at our fund and contributed to the fund for at least 1 month. Now, the way it worked, it was like this. In general, we pay the total amount of the allowances to the employer, and he distributes the allowances to the employees. And then the employer confirms that the employees received the allowances via a sworn statement. And that's what happened here.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I don't see question at the moment, but if you agree, you can always put your questions in the chat. I will gather everything at the end of the table and then get back to each of the panelists. Let's move on now to Germany. I would like to give the floor to Luisa Dornberger from the German Social Protection Fund for the construction sector. And we also touch another important topic, which is the topic of the accessibility of information. So, Lisa, I would like to ask you which was the experience in Germany in relation to this issue, and also if you have any good practice that can be relevant to flag and relevant for the European level. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Vielen Dank, Giuseppe. Hört man mich gut? Passt das mit dem Ton? Perfekt. Ich werde auf Deutsch sprechen, weil wir ja so einen tollen Dolmetscher-Service heute haben. Da dachte ich, mache ich es mir leicht und vielleicht bei allen anderen noch verständlicher, weil die Dolmetscher natürlich ein sehr viel schöneres Englisch noch reden. Oder welche Sprache man auch gerade braucht. Genau, wir haben schon sehr viel gehört. Wie Feliciano auch schon begonnen hat, wollen wir heute zusammentragen, welche Empfehlungen wir besonders herauskehren werden. Wir haben ja aus dem Projekt heraus sehr viele Empfehlungen entwickelt. Was könnten Wege sein, um schwierige Situationen wie Corona vielleicht noch besser, wir hören ja schon, dass einiges sehr gut gelaufen ist, aber vielleicht noch besser, vor allem für entsandte Arbeitnehmer und deren Arbeitgeber zu gestalten. Und so unterschiedlich auch die ganze Situation war und so komplex die Situation ist, konnten wir uns alle darauf einigen, dass der erste Schritt sein müsste, dass erstmal die Informationen fließen und die Informationen zugänglich gemacht werden. Und wie wir schon immer wieder anklingen gehört haben, Informationen sind erstmal der wichtigste und erste Punkt. Und es gab Unmengen an Informationen, die auch in den Ländern sehr, sehr schnell zur Verfügung gestellt wurden. Aber wie wir feststellen mussten, hier und da nicht mit dieser Systematik, die für Entsandte wichtig gewesen wären. Und die Systematik ist halt besonders wichtig. Also wir haben es selbst gemerkt, also anhand von SOKA Bau auch gemerkt, dass als Corona begonnen hat, wir sind alle ins Homeoffice gegangen und mussten trotzdem unseren Service natürlich aufrechterhalten und die Informationen weiterfließen lassen. Und das war eine Herausforderung für uns und für alle, wie wir auch während des Projekts festgestellt haben. Auch noch mit allen Besonderheiten, die in den Ländern vorhanden sind. Bei uns in Deutschland gibt es 16 Bundesländer und in den meisten Ländern gibt es ja auch regionale Eigenheiten. Das war eine so schnell sich ändernde Rechtslage, die man erstmal erfassen musste und auch als derjenige, der informiert, erfassen musste. Und natürlich gab es zentrale Stellen, sozusagen wie das Bundesgesundheitsministerium, das hat Informationen zur Verfügung gestellt, aber sie waren halt nicht in dem Moment gemünzt auf die Einzelfälle und auf Entsandte und Entsendearbeitgeber und sie haben dieses grenzüberschreitende Element natürlich nicht dabei haben können. Als Good Practice kann man schon sagen, und da ist vielleicht der Anknüpfungspunkt zum ersten Roundtable, das ist von der BG Bau, das ist in Deutschland die Berufsgenossenschaft Bau, die zuständig ist für Fragen der Gesundheit und Arbeitssicherheit auf Baustellen. Da gab es sehr viele Materialien, die sehr schnell erstellt worden sind, auch auf sehr vielen unterschiedlichen Wegen. Und ich glaube, da müssen wir eine Kreativität bekommen und uns herausarbeiten. Wir haben beispielsweise Plakate gedruckt und auf die Baustellen gesendet. Die Plakate haben oft nur Bildsprache enthalten. Und da war gar nicht diese Notwendigkeit, in verschiedene Sprachen zu übersetzen, sondern man konnte das Bild an sich nutzen. Aber auch, also sie haben nicht nur Bildsprache verwendet, sondern haben auch Informationen in verschiedensten Sprachen zur Verfügung gestellt. Ich glaube, das muss der Anknüpfungspunkt sein, den wir uns nehmen oder den wir versuchen sollten zu systematisieren, nämlich mehrere Kanäle auch zu bedienen, aber trotzdem die Systematik beizubehalten. Während des Projekts haben wir erfahren, dass zum Beispiel Spanien eine Hotline hatte, extra für Corona-Fragen, und auch Polen in ganz unterschiedlichen Sprachen auch. Und damit sage ich auch immer gerne als Best Practice, nicht ganz auf Corona bezogen, aber trotzdem eine gute Herangehensweise. Wir haben auch als SOKA Bau Hotlines auf unser Urlaubsverfahren bezogen, aber in 14 Sprachen. Und ich glaube, das ist etwas, was natürlich aufwendig ist und Ressourcen braucht, aber was unglaublich wichtig ist, weil wir doch feststellen immer wieder, dass alleine Informationen auf Webseiten, die auch wichtig sind, nicht genug sind, um wirklich bei denjenigen Arbeitnehmern und den Senderarbeitgebern anzukommen. Es fehlt ganz häufig dieser direkte Kontakt. Und für Deutschland kann ich sagen, dass es auch Hotlines gab, aber die häufig dann nur auf Deutsch oder auch dann vielleicht mal noch auf Englisch. Aber darüber hinaus ging es eigentlich nicht. Und da ist einfach eine Diskrepanz dazwischen. Ich glaube, die Sprachen zu bedienen ist etwas, was wir als wichtig herausstellen würden und eine Systematisierung herbeizuführen. Auch vielleicht mal Kanäle zu nutzen, auch Social-Media-Kanäle zu nutzen. Denn die Erreichbarkeit ist sehr unterschiedlich, natürlich, wie es bei uns allen ist. Manche nutzen einfach eher das Telefon, manche eher das Internet, manche eher Social-Media-Kanäle. Und herausfordernd für uns ist auch bei der Systematisierung, also als SOKA Bau, wir versuchen auf unserer Website 14 Sprachen auch darzustellen, aber dabei auch wirklich leichte Sprache zu verwenden. Ich würde sagen, das ist auch eine Erkenntnis, die sehr offensichtlich scheint, aber die wir trotzdem immer wieder im Hinterkopf behalten sollten, weil häufig gerade das nicht genau umgesetzt werden kann, weil man häufig Informationen gibt zu komplexen juristischen Themen. Wenn man sich zum Beispiel die Zoll-Webseite bei uns anguckt, das ist unsere offizielle Website, die von der gefordert wird von der europäischen Gesetzgebung, dann sind das sehr gute Informationen für Entsandte, die darauf enthalten sind auf Deutsch und Englisch dargestellt, aber es ist sehr schwierig zu verstehen. Es sind komplexe Sachverhalte, die dargestellt werden und wo das Bemühen zu erkennen ist, dass sie einfach dargestellt werden, aber wo das Ganze noch nicht ausreicht. Und das muss gerade in Ausnahmesituationen und Krisensituationen, wie wir es mit Corona erlebt haben, noch viel einfacher gestaltet werden und damit zugänglich gemacht werden. Ja, das war soweit das. Ich möchte immer noch gerne herauskehren, wenn man von Informationsfluss redet, und ich habe auch schon den persönlichen Kontakt im Zusammenhang mit einer Hotline angesprochen, aber ich glaube, der persönliche, menschliche Kontakt, der natürlich während der Pandemie ganz schwierig war umzusetzen. Wobei, wenn wir den spanischen Kollegen zugehört haben, war das ja eigentlich ganz gut möglich, dass zumindest auf die Baustellen gefahren wurde. Wir haben das in Deutschland, wenn man das Beraternetzwerk Faire Mobilität, was, glaube ich, recht bekannt ist. Und da mit diesem Beraternetzwerk schafft man natürlich auch eine Informationsweitergabe, und die pflegen den ganz persönlichen Kontakt. Und da immer wieder der Appell, das wurde jetzt in Deutschland schon institutionalisiert und sie haben auch einen gesetzlichen Auftrag erhalten und auch Ressourcen erhalten. Aber ich glaube, neben Faire Mobilität, die sehr bekannt sind, gibt es noch etliche weitere Beraternetzwerke, die sehr viel projektbezogener arbeiten müssen, befristeter arbeiten müssen. Diese Art der Netzwerke auszubauen, scheint mir auch ein wirklich wichtiger Schritt, um die Informationen zu den Leuten zu bringen und auch die Möglichkeit zu gewähren, Rechte geltend zu machen, die bestehen. Und ich habe auch schon, das nutze ich auch gerne, VertreterInnen der ELA gesehen. Wenn wir über Informationen und Informationsfluss reden, kann man bestimmt auch mit der ELA ganz gut ins Gespräch kommen. Ab nächstes Jahr steht ja sowieso die Baubranche im Mittelpunkt der ELA-Projekte. Und da sind wir auch ganz gespannt. Und ich denke, da wird hoffentlich Information auch noch ein Thema sein, was man sich wieder annimmt und wo man auch noch mal ganz neu drüber reden kann, ob wir über ELA Informationen zentral und leicht zugänglich vermittelt werden können. Ja, also der Appell, Informationen sind der erste Schritt für alles Weitere, und wir ich hoffe, man findet immer wieder weitere Wege, das zu vereinfachen und damit unsere Empfehlung, Informationen leicht zugänglich zu machen. Danke für die Aufmerksamkeit. Ich gebe zurück an Giuseppe.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm also one who always prefers to call rather than check, get lost on the website. So I totally support the hotline. Let's see also later if anyone from the audience would like to comment. So, for example, from Spain or from European Labour Authority. And in the meantime, I would like to move to the next speaker. So I'm back to Gazmend. So Gazmend, if you tell us a bit about the information measures implemented by the vocational training school of Bologna and the experience you had as a trainer during the pandemic.
I have the temptation to speak in Italian also, as Lisa did, but I will try.
As you prefer.
No, I'll try the same in English. I'll begin with a phrase that the Italian friends know the sense. The first reaction that we had, first reaction, shock. The Italians know it's a phrase mispronounced by an Italian politician in English that has become a catchphrase, a leitmotif on social media. Anyway, the first reaction was really of panic, talking about the training system and the training schools that we are part, as you know, of a national system in Italy of more than 100 training centers for the building sector. And we completely closed the training center for some weeks at the beginning. And we activated the protection systems, social systems and economical ones for the employers itself and the teachers also. And after some weeks, we begin to work again and to organize as the first step online information. The first activity we did were a lot of short seminars, and in that occasion we had to dust off and to pick up and update the e-learning system that we already had as a tool, as a digital tool, but it was not so much used at the time and was considered something really secondary. And in 1 month, maybe in Bologna, we trained more than 600 people, organizing more than 6 online seminars with more than 100 people participating in each training session. And of course, some of you maybe know that in the context of vocational training, we consider and organized 3 different levels of training: information, education, and training. And after the first action we did and the first activities of information, we trained and passed to the second step, that is the online training. And in this case, we organized 2 different kind of activities. The first one was that of trying to use the mandatory updating hours that in Italy are established by law for the blue-collar workers. They have to follow 6 hours of refresher courses on safety and health every 5 years, and these hours were used to train them on the COVID procedures, how to deal in the building site with the new rules and procedures. And at the other hand, we organized a lot of free courses for technicians, for the companies, for the employers, the safety coordinators also, that were normally from 3 to 12 hours, always online, but the it was different from the very first activities we did that were only information, general information. In the training online, we passed to the specific and going in deep to procedures, to rules, and to specific situations to face and to understand how to deal with in the building site and in the everyday activities. The other effort we did, not only us as a training school of Bologna, but our system, first of all for MEDIL, that is the national system that puts together all the training centers, prepared really rapidly a lot of useful graphics. At the very beginning, they were distributed in online and printed and given to every building site. And then we had a really good effort and really good materials prepared by the Udine school in Italy. There were some videos and short films showing the site procedures, how to deal with and how to really apply in the everyday activities in the building sites, all the new rules. And also another effort and something that I think we did well was a lot of material, self-produced material in IPLE, in Bologna, pills, interviews using a television broadcast that is called Iudicone, that we have from a lot of years that we use to promote safety and health in the building sector, and also technical issues and other information on the building sector activities. And it was something really useful for the companies that used these materials to apply the rules that they had to do in the everyday activities. What can I say? At the end, after 3 years of activities, there are a couple of focus elements that we were talking also in the last workshop we had some days before, and Feliciano and some other friends that are present today know. And I was talking just about these two things some days before. What we have, what the pandemic left to the construction site. We often witness two behaviors that goes into different extremes now. In some cases, the mask has become, fortunately, almost a habit. And this is a good thing because, as I said before, in the building sector, we have also other problems and other risks, chemical ones especially, but also biological, etc. In other cases, we have the situation that the masks are completely and immediately forgotten, even when the people are immersed in the dust that is produced by demolishing or mixing the concrete or the mortar in the building site. And we experience both the situation. The first one, that is a good thing, and the second one that of course is something really negative. And of course this has to do with the more general, that I would like to stress a general point about the safety and the health on the building sites. As we know, the safety on site, unfortunately, is not guaranteed only with gel and signatures on the procedures that are always present. So sometimes you find everything for COVID in a building site: gel, documents, everyday signatures on the temperature control, but much more is missing. For the example, you don't even know what a safety data sheet is for a chemical product or a glue you use, and you risk dying from falling as you are working on a rickety or an incomplete scaffolding. But and this is the real problem: the safety and in the building sector is not only due to pandemic, as of course it's something banal, but I would like to stress this point that we have to work a lot to improve, and the pandemic has to leave us something also good, not only the bad memories that we all have and we have experienced it in the last years. And the last point I would like to highlight and is an aspect that I personally, as a trainer, consider really important. The online training had a side benefit. As some of you, or maybe all of you know, one of the many structural shortcomings of our sector is the digital backwardness, the lack of being updated of sector operators and digital skills that has to be promoted and developed in the sector. All the players in the building sector have understood during the pandemic the importance of digital tools, and this has triggered a generalized process of accelerating digital skills. The digital revolution in construction is not yet understood and accompanied by really organic, good training actions. And we finally started training technicians, employers, and workers on smart safety personal protective equipment, on BIM, on 3D printing, on drones, on digital photogrammetry, smartphone applications that are really useful also in applying and in helping on the pandemic also, but not only, of course. The use of cloud platforms, virtual and augmented reality, etc. And I personally hope that in the near future, the technology will help us to better deal not only with the pandemics, but also with the entire building health and safety system, and with the better building system sector. That's all.
Thank you very much, Gazmend. Yeah, just to mention, I think that we will see a lot in relation to skills from the European agenda in the coming year, as it will be the European 2023 European Years of Skill, and I think also digital skills will be one of the most important points. Let's move now to Spain with Luisa, Javier, Alonso from Fundación Laboral de la Construcción, Asturias. So, Luis, I would like to ask you, what was the experience, the Spanish experience on vocational training in the construction sector during the pandemic? And which suggestions do you have for the EMEcs project?
¿Qué tal? Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Bueno, pues nuestra experiencia como centro de formación, nosotros somos un centro de formación que tenemos dos ubicaciones, una aquí en la zona central, en Ribera de Arriba, otra en Gijón. Son dos centros muy grandes y están orientados a la formación presencial, fundamentalmente para dar cobertura a los diferentes oficios del sector de la construcción, ¿no?, que requieren la manipulación de diferentes materiales, máquinas, uso de herramientas y demás, ¿no? Así que cuando aconteció a mediados de marzo el cierre de las instalaciones para la formación, pues bueno, supuso la paralización de la actividad, excepto en algún caso en donde sí podíamos hacer formación online, pero fue algo muy reducido a algunas empresas que lo demandaban. Así que yo creo que fue ya en mayo más o menos, cuando pudimos retomar la actividad presencial, el primer esfuerzo era ver la manera que teníamos para solucionar todos los inconvenientes para poner en marcha la formación presencial que requería nuestro sector. De hecho, en España, la formación en prevención de riesgos laborales, que es obligatoria para todos los trabajadores y para todas las empresas del sector, también es obligatoria que se haga de forma presencial. Así que el primer esfuerzo fue poner en marcha la formación obligatoria en materia de prevención de riesgos y que fuera también de forma presencial, como exige la norma. Los primeros cursos los iniciamos a finales de mayo y fueron precisamente esos cursos para trabajadores, para empresas, en materia de prevención, ¿no? Siguiendo los protocolos que aconsejaban los diferentes ministerios de sanidad, de educación, etc. Así que los esfuerzos que hicimos fueron justamente por intentar que la formación presencial volviera a la normalidad, como así fue, respetando esos protocolos que tuvimos que ir adaptando, con bastante éxito, por cierto, porque durante todo el periodo de la pandemia no tuvimos ninguna incidencia sanitaria en nuestras instalaciones, ¿no? A pesar de que en el año 2020, el año de la pandemia, formamos a un total de 1.600 alumnos, unos 230 cursos llegamos a realizar, muy en consonancia con lo que habíamos hecho los años anteriores. Quiero decir que la incidencia a nivel de actividad tuvo poca repercusión y los inconvenientes de la pandemia con relación al aspecto sanitario pues fueron mínimos o prácticamente nulos, ¿no? Lo que quiere decir que las medidas que se adoptaron a nivel autonómico en España, a nivel nacional e incluso luego con el carácter institucional que le dimos aquí, pues fueron eficientes, ¿no? Esas medidas pues estaban muy en consonancia con lo que se nos pedía, es decir, que hubiera unos circuitos para el flujo de personas en las instalaciones, una señalización adecuada para alumnado, profesorado y personal de la institución. Se limitó, lógicamente, el número de personas en las aulas, en las diferentes estancias. Se llevó a cabo la ventilación cruzada, el uso de geles, de guantes, mascarillas, etc. Llegamos a implementar también algún sistema para que los docentes llevaran consigo siempre esos equipos sanitarios para utilizarlos en las diferentes instalaciones, bien en las aulas, bien en los talleres prácticos, etc., ¿no? Se instalaron luego detectores de CO2 en las instalaciones para que la ventilación no solamente estuviera garantizada, como lo estaba ya, sino también para que los formadores tuvieran el aviso de si el ambiente había que renovar, pues lo tuvieran garantizado. Se implementaron también diferentes metodologías de trabajo, como por ejemplo en la selección de participantes, donde se suelen hacer procesos masivos presenciales. Ahí se sustituyó por procesos online y entonces, bueno, era todo pues, a través de llamadas telefónicas, correos electrónicos o diferentes sistemas implementados informáticamente, ¿no? Formularios, etc. Hay un módulo de prácticas a la finalización de nuestros cursos para personas desempleadas que se hace en las empresas. Hubo también que adaptar algún protocolo para poder hacerlo con garantías sanitarias y en algún caso llegaron a sustituirse por otros modelos, pues por prácticas también que se podían hacer online o con algún trabajo que pudiera sustituir esas prácticas obligatorias, ¿no? También, obviamente, se vio incrementada la formación online. Pusimos en marcha aulas virtuales y los cursos de formación online que ya teníamos con nuestro campus de formación, pero incrementamos esa formación notablemente y pusimos en marcha, a raíz de esta pandemia, un mecanismo como es el aula virtual, el aula permanente o el aula abierta de digital, que es una iniciativa para la formación de los trabajadores en materia digital, en herramientas digitales, y que lo puedan hacer a través de una plataforma digital, ¿no? También tenemos un aula abierta de prevención y bueno, digamos que el impulso en estas nuevas tecnologías en el sector, pues la pandemia nos está enseñando a utilizarlas de una forma masiva, como estamos viendo hoy en esta jornada, ¿no? Y quizá hace años lo hubiéramos hecho presencial, ¿no? Bien, esta es nuestra experiencia y es cierto que para nosotros como comunidad educativa pues fue satisfactorio el hecho de no tener una incidencia importante, más bien nula. Eso quiere decir que tanto alumnos, alumnado, profesorado, etcétera, y personal de la propia entidad pues fueron respetuosos con las normas y se implementaron adecuadamente, ¿no? O sea que la normativa vigente creo que también fue eficaz porque daba cumplimiento a poder protegerse del virus, ¿no? Nada más. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Luis. I don't know if there are any questions or comments from the audience. Just as a reminder, everyone is more than welcome to take the floor. I also see someone from the European Commission or from, again, the European Labour Authority. So at any time, please feel free. You are more than welcome to comment or take the floor, as every participant. In the meantime, I would like to also thank Giovanni Carapella, who shared in the chat an example of a poster on health and safety information developed by Formedil and CNCE. And if there are no questions or comments, I would like to thank all the speakers of the first two roundtables. It was a very interesting discussion, and I would call a break. And so we can start with the third roundtable, so opportunities from digitalization. At this point, I would like to give the floor to Sofia Gualandi from Fondazione Giacomo Brodolini, who will provide us with projects recommendation in relation to the topic of the use of digital tools to better enforce posted workers' working conditions. So, Sofia, the floor is yours.
Can you see me? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, we see and we hear you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And sorry for this light, which is very okay, like if in Rome there was 30 degrees, it's actually raining today. Thank you for this space, Giuseppe. My name is Sofia Gualandi from Fondazione Giacomo Brodolini, which is partner in the project from Italy. And thank you very much for giving me the space to discuss this topic, as my research center is very, let's say, it holds an expertise with regard to positive impact of technology and working conditions. So I will be very happy to talk about the opportunities from digitalization for improving working conditions and enforcement of posting workers' conditions that we developed all together with policy recommendation by EMEcs partners, of course. And the first recommendation actually calls the EU institution to organize, let's say, a system for data sharing available to relevant public authorities, national public authorities from all the EU member states with homogeneous structure of information. For instance, we discussed about matching data of the A1 forms with the information in preliminary declarations or other tools which will be later presented by the Italian National Institution for Social Security. So I will let the floor to my fellow colleagues later. The second recommendation the partners developed is dedicated to national level policymakers and is actually to involve sectoral funds in data sharing. Considering the role of these sectoral funds in the construction sectors and in the market, they, of course, shall be, let's say, able to access relevant data, to inform, let's say, sending undertakings and make sure they register in the host country whenever due. This is already taking place in some country analyzed, like Germany, where SOKA is forwarded preliminary declarations of posting taking place in construction. So it would be very, very interesting to see this measure shared among other member states of the European Union. Then recommendation number 3, of course, is that the role of social partner shall be empowered. And in this framework, it would be key to name, let's say, a contact person in national declarations of posting, through whom, of course, social partners could be in contact with and seek to engage in collective bargaining on the site within the host countries. Recommendations suggest to make this contact and the related summary information, for instance, the place of work or the number of posted worker, easily available to national social partners. And actually, in the framework of the project, partners experienced a lack of information of key social partners, which simply did not know where workers were posted, and of course, the exchange of information via digital tools would be very appreciated. Then the fourth recommendation developed by the EMEcs partners is dedicated, it's very wide actually, and is to, let's say, employ and better exploit digital tools to reduce administrative burdens on companies. For instance, to register attendances paperless, and to use innovative solutions provided by the digital revolution to make it easier for everybody for example, to signal the worker access and exit on the construction sites via, for example, a digital app on the personal smartphone, or via digital card connected via QR code or other very, very accessible technologies. Indeed, pandemic already shared the use of these tools, so it shall not be that hard to spread the implementation of such digital solutions. Then the fifth recommendation in this framework is more dedicated to the European institutions, and let's say builds on the analysis of online job advertisements posted by unknown employers or unknown temporary work agencies that project partners analyzed during the project in the framework of their research activities. And what EMEcs recommendations suggest is to set clear boundaries to the contents of online private job advertisements, while in turn, let's say, potentiate and promote public intermediation for job advertisements, and also to reconsider conditions for the activities of temporary work agencies. Sorry, thank you, Manola. Indeed, what we detected is that 1 out of 5 advertisements had an unknown employer, and key information, for example, salary and working conditions, was often shady, not possible to access for workers when applying. So this was a bit, this was very interesting indeed to detect, and this was especially the case of private advertisements posted and shared via Facebook groups or other private websites, not very well regulated. So what we did was basically to recall a previous recommendation from the YES project. Many of us were already part of, where we, let's say, reached similar conclusions to ask the European Commission indeed to focus on the issue of intermediation and placement, especially, but not only with regard to cross-border level working activities. And then, last but not least, the sixth recommendation related to digital opportunity refers to the improvement of transparency along the supply and subcontracting chains, which we know, as we know, is a big challenge of the construction sector. Of course, the transparency and the ability to for the lead company to control the working activities, health and safety conditions, and other employment-related activities, and along the entire supply and subcontracting chain. So, considering the very long chain of activities, we analyzed a couple of tools in the discussion paper, like, of course, more than a couple of, but I will quote only a couple of tools, like Guest Plano and Check, which are available in our discussion paper. And these digital tools seems to, let's say, answer and provide for solutions to concern over, let's say, quality of service providers, also in the line of, especially in the light of work accidents prevention, health and safety issues, and presence of workers on the on the construction sites, etc., etc. So what we detected was, let's say, the urgency for companies, especially lead contractors, to implement such tools and to bring more attention to the OSH issues. And that these digital tools and software could be helpful in this framework. I concluded the explanation of such recommendations, and I would like also to add that my research institution was very, very happy to be part of this project, and we are keen to collaborate to these important partnerships in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sofia, for this overview. I think we'll touch upon all these presented points throughout the discussion of the roundtable. And I would like now to jump to Joaquín Aurelio Rodríguez from Fundación Laboral de la Construcción Asturias. Joaquín, we have been reported in several cases the pandemic slowed down or interrupted sometimes inspections and in construction sites. So this could lead also to a risk of worsening the condition of workers. So, which is the experience from Spain, and how are digital tools used to support improving implementation of OSH measures? Joaquín, I cannot hear you.
¿Sí? ¿Se me oye?
Yeah.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias, Giuseppe. Primero, quería dar un saludo a todos los participantes en la jornada y un fuerte abrazo virtual a todos los miembros del proyecto. ¿Vale? Muchísimas gracias por vuestra colaboración y vuestras atenciones. Respecto a la pregunta que me realizas, pues yo la verdad es que durante esta jornada, lo estaba comentando antes en el café, nada más hago que llorar. Y llorar, quiero decir, de pensar de todo aquello que hemos sufrido y padecido durante estos 2 años de pandemia, ¿no? Me vuelve a la memoria todo lo que estamos hablando, de inspecciones, de, lógicamente, legislación y normas just in time. Y sí es la verdad que yo, en la pandemia, lo que analizamos es que se publicaron muchísimas leyes y muchas normas nuevas que deberían ser verificadas. Lo que decía Giovanni antes, quiero decir, yo me acuerdo de estar un domingo a las 12 menos cuarto, a las 11:45 de la noche, esperando que saliese una norma que el día lunes no se trabajaba. ¿Vale? Con lo cual fuimos avanzando, fuimos haciendo un recorrido casi en tiempo real. ¿Vale? Sí que es la verdad que debido a la pandemia, como bien decía también Fernando, las inspecciones de seguridad, sobre todo de administración, se rebajaron. ¿Vale? Debido a la carga de legislación y normas que se habían publicado, se derivaron esos recursos de inspectores a un trabajo, yo creo que más administrativo que de presencia, digamos, en los centros de trabajo. Ya eran pocos, yo ponemos en Asturias, ya el número de inspectores de trabajo eran pocos y pasaron a ser menos. Es más, algunas veces cuando nosotros como fundación denunciábamos algunas obras, lo que nos pedía la inspección de trabajo es que no las denunciásemos porque no podían atender, digamos, esa denuncia, ¿no? Esa visita a las obras no la podían realizar porque estaban, lógicamente, centrados en lo que eran las normas, la aplicación de normas y leyes de la pandemia. Sí, es verdad, Fernando es uno de los delegados, que por nuestra parte, por la parte del convenio colectivo del sector de la construcción, no hemos rebajado de las inspecciones y con lo cual los 8 inspectores de nuestro sector que visitaban las obras las visitaron, como os comentó antes Fernando. ¿Vale? ¿Qué ocurre? ¿Qué ventajas tenemos con la aplicación de herramientas digitales en esta pandemia? Yo creo, la primera, importantísimo redes sociales y comunicación, sobre todo por la cantidad de protocolos y cambios que tuvimos. Sí ocurre, y a mí me pasó, que muchas veces cuando ibas a buscar una información muy concreta, acababas en una información no actualizada. Básicamente porque había cantidad de fuentes de información que no estaban actualizadas. Entiendo con ganas de ayudar, no entiendo que con ganas de ayudar, pero no tenías, digamos, te costaba conseguir la última información sobre la pandemia. Ahí, respecto a las herramientas digitales, yo creo que es importante respecto a lo que nosotros tenemos y cómo pueden ayudar a la seguridad y salud en el trabajo, pues comentar algunas que ya comentamos en el proyecto, que por una parte hay una herramienta que es de carácter nacional, en nuestro caso, que es el registro de empresas acreditadas y que por el cual tienen que pasar todas las empresas de construcción y tienen que facilitar la formación que tienen sus trabajadores. ¿Vale? Entonces, ese es un registro que tienes que mantener actualizado, aunque esa es una de las debilidades, que las empresas no lo tienen actualizado. Pero en realidad ahí está ya la formación en prevención de todos sus trabajadores. Es más, no solo en prevención, sino la formación para la utilización de la maquinaria que tengan en la empresa. Por otro lado, a nivel de sector de construcción de España tenemos una tarjeta de TPC, que lo que hace es también recoger la información de los trabajos que haya realizado ese trabajador y a la vez la formación en prevención. Con lo cual, sí que es la verdad que tenemos 2 herramientas que casi se solapan, ¿vale? O podrían solaparse, con lo cual estamos manejando la misma información en 2 sitios. Y por nuestro convenio colectivo, en la zona norte de España, donde actuamos. Nosotros tenemos también una aplicación que es la que maneja los delegados como Fernando, donde se vuelca toda la información de las obras. Los inspectores hacen una visita a obra, ven las cosas que están mal y las cosas que están mal las trasladamos a una base de datos, y aquellas que vemos que no se corrigen, después de una segunda visita las denunciamos a la inspección de trabajo porque entendemos que puede ser causa de accidentes de trabajo. Es muy importante lo de las herramientas digitales y sobre todo que hablaba también, yo creo que del proyecto Sofía, de cómo podemos poner en común la información que tenemos todos. Yo hay información que me interesa a lo mejor de lo que es la inspección de trabajo en España, hay información que me puede interesar de inicio de obras, mi información puede ser interesante para la Tesorería de Seguridad Social o para el gobierno, y yo creo que lo que tendríamos que analizar es cómo a nivel tanto europeo como de los diferentes estados podemos volcar esa información o parte de esa información para que esté disponible para todos los Estados miembros. Yo creo que ese es el principio de un largo camino en el que creo que tenemos que trabajar, porque nos va a reportar muchos beneficios para todos los que colaboramos en este tema de la seguridad y salud en el trabajo. Yo creo que no tengo nada más que decir. Si tienen cualquier pregunta, pues a su disposición. Felicitarles las fiestas, y que nos vemos el próximo año, si no es en este proyecto, es en otro, os aseguro. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Let's move now to Poland. I'm happy to give the floor to Jakub Kus from Budowani Trade Union. So, Jakub, as part of the project, we investigated a set of digital tools potentially helpful to improve monitoring of working condition. Can you tell us something about the experience of Wielkie Budowanie and how trade unions are using data contained in this tool? Thank you very much.
Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry.
Dziękuję, dzień dobry. Dzień dobry, witam wszystkich serdecznie. Ja jestem w dość specyficznej sytuacji, bo jestem w trakcie kongresu naszej konfederacji, w trakcie wyborów, także nie byłem w stanie włączyć się w całą konferencję. Mój związek bardzo wysoko sobie ceni projekty prowadzone przez CNCE i przez Fondazione Brodolini. Przede wszystkim jest to kolejny projekt, w którym uczestniczymy, przede wszystkim ze względu na ogromny profesjonalizm w prowadzeniu tych projektów. No i bardzo interesujące rezultaty. Mamy nadzieję, że rezultaty tego projektu, a jesteśmy już przy jego końcu, również i będą interesujące nie tylko dla nas jako uczestników projektu, ale też dla odbiorców, też dla Komisji Europejskiej, szczególnie w tym obszarze rekomendacji. Badaliśmy narzędzia cyfrowe w ramach projektu. To jest dość przewrotny pomysł, żebym ja zabierał głos tutaj, ponieważ jako kraj nie jesteśmy najbardziej zaawansowani w wdrażaniu ogólnie dostępnych narzędzi cyfrowych, z których mogliby korzystać pracownicy, szczególnie w tym obszarze poprawy warunków pracy, poprawy bezpieczeństwa pracy. My dość blisko współpracujemy z Zakładem Ubezpieczeń Społecznych, który takie narzędzia ma. Zakład Ubezpieczeń Społecznych w Polsce jest bardzo zaawansowany cyfrowo, ale są to narzędzia wykorzystywane do nieco innych celów i też trzeba powiedzieć, one nie są dostępne publicznie, czyli nie są dostępne każdemu pracownikowi. Zresztą nie taki jest cel działania Zakładu Ubezpieczeń Społecznych. Współpracujemy również z Państwową Inspekcją Pracy. I jako związki zawodowe otrzymujemy praktycznie wszystkie dane, te, które są dostępne, te, które są zbierane przez inspekcję. Przebadaliśmy w Polsce bardzo wiele różnych narzędzi cyfrowych, które mogłyby być wykorzystywane dla poprawy warunków pracy, dla lepszego nadzoru nad warunkami pracy, dla unikania nieprawidłowości, oszustw wręcz w zakresie warunków pracy, szczególnie tych, które dotyczą pracowników. Są wykorzystywane narzędzia bardzo zaawansowane cyfrowo, ale są to narzędzia komercyjne, wykorzystywane, kupowane przez firmy. My mamy pewne wątpliwości co do nie do skuteczności tych narzędzi, bo one rzeczywiście są bardzo zaawansowane, bardzo mogą wspierać przede wszystkim proces utrzymania bezpieczeństwa prac budowlanych w konkretnej firmie, na konkretnej budowie, ale są na tyle zaawansowane, że również mogą służyć do innych celów, do powiedzmy wprost śledzenia pracowników i ich zachowań niekoniecznie związanych z bezpieczeństwem. Także mieliśmy tutaj pewne wątpliwości. Po takiej szerokiej analizie wybraliśmy to, co naszym zdaniem jest po pierwsze najczęściej wykorzystywanym narzędziem cyfrowym, chociaż nie bardzo zaawansowanym narzędziem cyfrowym w polskim budownictwie. Po drugie, rzeczywiście służy różnym grupom odbiorców, interesariuszy, w tym również pracownikom mobilnym, migrującym z innych krajów Unii Europejskiej i przede wszystkim z krajów trzecich. To narzędzie nazywa się Wielkie Budowanie, jest portalem prowadzonym przez prywatną firmę, co ma swoje również złe strony, ponieważ wiadomo, że jest to narzędzie komercyjne, więc musi również na siebie zarabiać, więc jest tam również sporo reklam, sporo dodatkowych treści odpłatnych, które zapewniają portalowi utrzymanie się. To jest jednocześnie wyszukiwarka ofert pracy w sektorze budowlanym, ale zawierająca informacje o wynagrodzeniu, o rodzajach kontraktów, o czasie pracy, o ewentualnych dodatkowych benefitach. To w ramach wyszukiwarki. Ale jest to jednocześnie i to jest chyba podstawowy plus tego portalu, to czego bardzo często brakuje w tego typu dostępie do informacji, również informacji cyfrowej. Jest to narzędzie niezwykle aktualne, ponieważ dane są aktualizowane co miesiąc. Dane przede wszystkim o cenach rynkowych usług budowlanych z jednej strony, a z drugiej strony o stawkach wynagrodzenia netto bez dodatkowych obciążeń, w poszczególnych grupach, szczegółowych grupach robót budowlanych, czyli można powiedzieć nawet w szczegółowych grupach zawodów budowlanych, z podziałem na regiony. My mamy taką sytuację trochę podobną do niektórych innych krajów europejskich, wydaje mi się, że również do Włoch, że zróżnicowanie cen, a co za tym idzie wynagrodzeń w poszczególnych regionach jest bardzo duże w Polsce. Te dane gromadzone są nie bezpośrednio ze źródeł oficjalnych statystycznych, ale poprzez badania tegoż portalu na podstawie umów z firmami budowlanymi różnej wielkości. To jest również zaleta tego portalu. Ta grupa firm, ta grupa badawcza jest dość szeroką grupą, więc te dane są wiarygodne i rzeczywiście są na bieżąco aktualizowane, z czym czasem mają problem oficjalne służby statystyczne, bo one funkcjonują w nieco inny sposób. Portal jest podzielony na wiele sekcji. Po pierwsze jest to wyszukiwarka pracowników budowlanych w poszczególnych kategoriach robót. Po drugie wyszukiwarka miejsc pracy dla pracowników budownictwa w poszczególnych województwach, a nawet w poszczególnych miejscowościach. Po trzecie wyszukiwarka firm budowlanych, producentów wyrobów budowlanych i firm transportujących wyroby budowlane. No i wreszcie to, co dla nas najważniejsze, jest to informacja o bieżących cenach usług, z podaniem ceny netto roboczo-godziny pracy w poszczególnych szczegółowych grupach robót i dane te dotyczą tylko pracowników fizycznych, czyli wykwalifikowanych robotników placu budowy i robót wykończeniowych. Ceny usług podane są dla poszczególnych województw regionów, czyli analizy są comiesięczne dla poszczególnych województw. Te różnice w tych wynagrodzeniach, w poziomach wynagrodzeń realnych, powtarzam, bo podawanych przez realne firmy realizujące na bieżąco roboty budowlane są znaczne, rzeczywiście bardzo znaczne w poszczególnych regionach. Są w tej wyszukiwarce, w tym portalu również oferty grup wykonawczych, co budzi z punktu widzenia związku zawodowego pewne wątpliwości, ale to nie są oferty agencji pracy, to są oferty grup wykonawczych do realizacji określonych typów inwestycji budowlanych. To niestety przypomina trochę taki dość średniowieczny, cechowy sposób pracy, ale on jest również obecny na polskim rynku pracy. Wyszukuje się czasem grupy specjalistów, które niekoniecznie są firmami. Pracownicy i firmy, które nie otrzymały lub nie otrzymały w terminie wynagrodzenia za usługę albo za wykonaną pracę w przypadku pracowników, mogą zgłosić nierzetelnego inwestora na portalu. Ten portal również obejmuje doradztwo w zakresie wykonawstwa, inwestycji budowlanej, wsparcie prawne odpłatnie, analizy dynamiki cen usług, materiałów budowlanych, cen robót w poszczególnych grupach robót, przegląd zmian prawa, analizy sytuacji na rynku pracy w oparciu o dane, które są gromadzone przez portal. Podstawowym celem jest oczywiście dostarczenie inwestorom, w tym indywidualnym, informacji o aktualnych cenach robót i usług. Ale też portal jest wykorzystywany przez pracowników migrujących do kalkulacji wynagrodzenia czy oceny poziomu własnego wynagrodzenia na podstawie najbardziej aktualnych danych o wysokości stawek godzinowych w poszczególnych grupach robót. A więc celem portalu jest dostarczenie kompleksowej, aktualnej informacji o warunkach inwestycji budowlanej, o cenach robót, ale w tym również wynagrodzeniach, ze szczególnym właśnie uwzględnieniem kosztów pracy i dodatkowo doradztwo. Dodatkowo ten portal również dostarcza informacji o aktualnych cenach wyrobów budowlanych, materiałów budowlanych, które bardzo szybko się zmieniają w Polsce. Tutaj głównym narzędziem kontroli naruszeń prawa i ewentualnych oszustw w realizacji inwestycji jest możliwość szczegółowego porównania stawek godzinowego wynagrodzenia za usługę w poszczególnych grupach robót. To jest bardzo istotne dla pracowników migrujących, szczególnie wtedy, kiedy ich uprawnienia w tym zakresie, ich prawa są naruszane także przez agencje pracy. Dodatkową funkcją portalu jest tutaj możliwość zgłoszenia nadużyć. Pracownicy, którzy nie otrzymali wynagrodzenia, mogą zgłosić tego.
Sorry for interrupting. If you can wrap up in 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Tak, no w takim razie przejdę do mocnych i słabych stron, do takiej krótkiej analizy. Portal pozwala na uzyskanie najbardziej aktualnych danych. Portal wspiera pracowników w ocenie swojego poziomu wynagrodzenia. Mocną stroną portalu jest właśnie możliwość porównania przez pracowników danych o oferowanym wynagrodzeniu przez pracodawcę ze średnią regionalną, co pozwala im również na mobilność wewnętrzną w kraju, na wybór lepszego pracodawcy. Ale portal też ma swoje słabe strony, to znaczy opiera swoje dane na raportach dużej grupy firm budowlanych, ale nie jest nam do końca dostępna metodologia samego badania. No, metodologia badania jest tutaj własnością firmy. Operator ma ograniczone możliwości weryfikacji podanych danych, musi bazować wyłącznie na informacjach firmy dostarczającej dane. No, ona może być wyrzucona z portalu, jeżeli podaje dane nierzetelnie. Mówiąc wprost, jest to narzędzie komercyjne, jest to narzędzie nieoficjalne, oparte na innych źródłach niż oficjalne dane statystyczne, ale jest to narzędzie aktualne, co jest z naszego punktu widzenia związku zawodowego bardzo istotne. Trzeba pamiętać o tym, że w Polsce układy zbiorowe pracy, w budownictwie nie ma układu ponadzakładowego, a w poszczególnych firmach budowlanych są rzadkością. Stąd też takie narzędzie z tego punktu widzenia do analizy rynku pracy przez związek zawodowy jest bezcenne. Może tyle, miałbym dużo więcej do powiedzenia, wiem, że mamy ograniczony czas konferencji. Dziękuję bardzo i również życzę Wam wszystkim spokojnych, wesołych, zdrowych świąt i lepszego nowego roku.
Thank you very much, Jakub, and again I apologize for interrupting you before. Let's now move again to Portugal, and I would like to give the floor to Joana Marques from the University Institute of Lisbon. And let's now look at a different approach to monitor the labor market that is looking at job advertisements. We have done so across all the covered countries, sample of 10 more or less online portals. So Joana, can you tell us the main findings and provide your view on the basis of advertisements, that you screened? Thank you very much.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I have a PowerPoint to share, if you don't mind, because please, since my focus is more based on quantitative data. I think it would be better for you to follow. And I will try to go quickly through this data. So I will try to briefly present the background, the methodology we followed, then present an overview of the integrated data collected by all project partners and put together by Feliciano as a way to screen posting trends in the construction sector. And our team in Portugal monitored simultaneously 2 different platforms, one of which had an overwhelming number of job ads. So we decided to make a separate analysis of this one, not to be disproportionate in comparison to the others. Very briefly, as a background, I would like to mention that when we started researching posting in 2017, in the scope of the EU Post Lab project, together with most of the EMEcs project partners, this was still quite an invisible reality in Portugal, and our main it was difficult to access data on posting, and we already back then identified job advertisements as a potential source of information. These are examples of job ads that we found by chance in smaller Portuguese villages. But then in the meantime, with this increasing digitalization, opened a new potential in the use of job ads to research the evolution of labor market and specifically posting. So allowing this diversification of data sources in a more time and cost effectiveness. At the same time as there are still very few comparative studies based on job ads. So the EMEcs project entailed this selection of websites hosting proposals to work abroad and screen these advertisements targeting construction activities for a period of 1 month, following a common methodology between all project partners and analyzing them based on a common template. So at the end, we had 3 websites operated by public employment services, 4 informal websites, and 3 Facebook groups. This resulted in a final sample consisting of 203 ads, split between almost equally between the Facebook groups, informal websites, and public websites. The analysis of the type of employer in these ads shows that the identity of employer was hidden in a quite substantial percentage of cases. By contrast, in 43% of cases, the advertisements was posted through temporary work agencies, and only in 36% of cases by a company directly meant to hire the worker. A small percentage of ads did not identify the host country. Okay, these are the most common countries of destination that we identified, and as expected, our analysis revealed that the host countries tend to be of higher wage than the one of origin. Just to mention that the screening showed that the most occupations are blue-collar occupations like bricklayer, electrician, carpenter, and only 17% of profiles addressed white-collar occupations. Okay, moving on, so not to take too much time. Also, the level of experience was often unspecified. In general, the information on terms of employment is often very absent. For instance, in what regards the place, the specific place in the country, the information on pay, on working time. Only 2% of the advertisements really refer to posting clearly, which in a way is reassuring of a legal situation, as posted workers shall be already employed in the sending country to be a genuine posting. Nevertheless, this analysis, the partners assessed that 35% of the advertisements were possibly including unclear, unrealistic, or illegal contents. Moving quickly to the Portuguese case, where posting and label mobility in general is very attractive, given the country low wages. We screened, so this just one website that had over 300 ads in 1 month. And we would like to mention that in this, among the employers advertising, we had, for instance, one company that is already specialized in posting. And we also found companies from one same group that hire both as a construction company and as temporary work agency, which might reveal some more illicit situations, let's say. As I mentioned, also for the European integrated analysis, as an element of concern is that the actual location of works is only known in 17% of cases, and the duration of works abroad is hardly never mentioned. And also we identified in a few ads working times above what is permitted in the host countries, like 15 hours a week in Ireland, for instance.
Thank
Again,
you, yeah.
Yes, I have to move on.
Sorry for that.
Okay, just to say that we also identified some additional features, like a number of ads requiring photo, a set of specific requirements like physical strength, ability of working at heights, willingness to work outdoors regardless of weather conditions. In some cases only accepting Portuguese citizens, but the most common is the requirement for language skills. Just since this focus on COVID, I would like to mention that we also find very few ads that refer the requirement of having a COVID certificate. And just a final comment that we observed in the Portuguese and Latin language, that the language as gender, this analysis confirms that what we already know, that this is a sector very male dominated. And the small percentage of ads with neutral language were ads written in English, where the language tends to be more neutral. So just to conclude with this great potential to explore in the use of online job ads, and that the similar analysis on a larger scale may actually generate important knowledge on these trends and on risks of abuse. Yet we know that the sector, as it has already been mentioned, has a large informality and opacity that still escapes all our efforts. And that's it. Thank you. Sorry for the interpreters for running.
Thank you very much, Joanna. I'm now very happy to welcome two stakeholders that are not part of the EMEcs the EMEcs consortium. First of all, Mr. Stefano Cascone from the Italian Institute on Social Protection, and also Mr. Bar Stalpaert, President of the Social Intelligence and Investigation Service in Belgium. Welcome both, and thank you very much for being here today. So I give now the floor to Mr. Stefano Cascone, as he will provide us with a short overview on the European Social Security Pass, which is a pilot project that the European Commission is actually at the moment leading with IMSS in Italy. So Mr. Stefano Cascone will provide us with further information. Thank you very much, Stefano. The floor is yours.
Good morning, buongiorno a tutti.
Buongiorno.
Se non è un problema, la presentazione la farei in italiano, visto che c'è l'interpretariato, ma la mia presentazione che mi accingo a mostrare sullo schermo è in inglese. Mi dica lei se va bene in italiano o preferisce in inglese, non ho problemi.
Sure, please. Okay.
Just a moment. Okay, can you hear? Can you see the screen?
We can see it.
Okay, so thank you. Really shortly, this is the agenda of my presentation that I will stretch in 8 or 10 minutes, no more. Okay. Okay, this is about ESPAS. ESPAS is something compliant with the joined up political vision. It realizes the partnership between public and private. Want to realize a connecting global expertise. We want to invest in new innovation and startup and promoting and enabling regulatory framework. We are realizing this project inside the infrastructure EBSI, that means European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, because this project is related to blockchain. It's not mandatory choice. Really, we will see that our choice is another one, but we think that blockchain is the better solution to realize from a technical point of view our project. We have started by from the pillar 12 about social protection, that state about digitalization and requires innovation, technological innovation for digital nomads workers. So we start a pilot in this view that I'm going to describe better. We start a pilot in 2021 to explore a digital solution that has been named the European Social Security Pass. Briefly, what is the goal of our project? To put in the hands of the citizen a wallet agent that really basing on technology that is SIOP, the wallet and all user interface has been developed. The wallet run on European block service infrastructure. What is the wallet? What is the wallet app? An application on a mobile phone that allows the citizen to share information, to have in his own control the social security information related to him or herself. So we are compliant with ADAS, with single digital gateway. The EASY project that is the current project based on exchange of messages in order to make all the social security institutions in Europe to exchange information. What we want to do is no longer exchange data, but share data. So what are the goals of this project that is based, as you can see, on blockchain technology to improve the citizen experience, the privacy compliance has to be respected, reduction of frauds, in order to exchange information or share information among the social security institution, we don't need an additional European code. Each country and each institution in the countries continue to own pre-existing data and information. And then real-time updates on individual citizen data. We started to apply this project to migrant workers, so the ones that are posted into another member state. So they work, for example, in Italy, and they are posted for a limited period of time in another country, just like France, Poland, and so on. In order to do this and to be applied the legislative application, you need an authorization by the competent social security institution. In Italy, it's IMPS. So the user experience is that in Italy, one citizen or the employer of the citizen requests the authorization to post the worker to the competent institution in IMPS. So the citizen already authorized, prepares his own travel. Then he traveled to another country. In this example, it's Germany. And then it could happen that at the end of the process, it could be inspected. And he has to prove, or she has to prove the authorization to this posting. So in this very rich and complex slide, I can describe starting from point 1. In the first step, the employer connects to National Security Portal and fills the request for PD1. The clerks acknowledge the request, and the posted worker is notified that the request for a PD1 has been introduced for him. What happens today? Today happens that an email, this is point 2, has been sent to citizen that downloads one paper. PD1 means portable document A1, and he can then bring this paper with himself or herself in order to show this paper to the inspector that want to prove the authorization to be posted. In our solution, the point 3 means that the employer forwards the email to the posted worker. And by using this email, the citizen can get this verifiable credential, that is the file, encrypted file that contains the authorization in his own wallet app. You can see it in the left down part of the screen. So at this moment, the citizen can authorize the getting of this credential, and he has on his own wallet. Okay, what happens when an inspector wants to check or to control the authorization of the posted worker? If the citizen accepts and recognizes the inspector as an entitled one to check this authorization, he opens or she opens the wallet, get a QR code, and then gets a QR code, and then authorize the sharing of this information to the inspector. Then, at this moment, the verifiable credential, really, it's a technicality, but really it is named the verifiable presentation. This verifiable credential is checked by the inspector on blockchain. It means that the inspector can verify in the blockchain if the authorization is or not dead, if it has been issued by the relevant social institution, and it has been not revoked. On blockchain, there are no sensitive data, only one proof, only one code that make the inspector able to understand if this verifiable credential is under validity and has been issued by IMPS. We
Stefano,
have,
sorry for interrupting. If you wrap up the presentation and also.
Yes, okay.
Thank you very much.
I prepared the focus on frauds because I know that this is the theme of this. This solution is very good for the citizen because it's simply to use, is realizing digitalization. There is no paper. Then consider that when the IMPS or the Social Security competent institution issues, the authorization is already shared on blockchain. So there is no delay in sharing information among all the social security institutions in Europe. But one theme, one application, one feature of this solution is about frauds. Because we have a distributed ledger, it means that every transaction is replicated. So in case one database goes down, this information is already available in another node in the network. The consensus is based, allows us to use, to make resilient our solution. And then it is based on cryptography. So no one can access the information, steal them, or access to sensitive information. Then fake verifiable credential has already checked on blockchain in order to establish if they are been issued by a not competent institution. I think that I can close here because the time is really short. This is a presentation. However, I think that it's a good end for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Stefano. And if you allow me, I can share the presentation with in PDF with participants.
For sure, for sure.
Thank you very much, Stefano.
Thank you.
And sorry for interrupting. Bart, I'm moving to you now. Thank you again very much for being here. And yeah, as you know, I would like to ask you if you can tell us briefly about how digital tools have been tested to tackle irregularities at work in Belgium, which is your point of view, and also which are the, according to your opinion, opportunities and threats from the digitalization of social protection and also of inspectorate activities.
So I will, sorry for the technical things. As mentioned, it's about digitalization and...
no problem, Bart. So yeah, I give the floor to you.
It's about digitalization, and then you can see there are some kind of people that can't work with it. So it's a little bit odd to give a presentation about digitalization in Belgium. Even I'm not very good at it. So sorry for that. So, okay, where's my presentation? Here it is. So
no problem at all.
You asked me about...
we know that digital tools are still tricky.
Yes,
I'm still a victim of digital tools sometimes. So
first of all, thank you for having me here and to share our insights on the Belgian side. For those who do not know COPREVAS, and I can imagine in my institution, we are an umbrella institution, so we are not really conducting inspections on the field ourselves, but there are different services, inspection services, that are working together with us. And what we try to do is to have, it's a very expensive word, to try to have a holistic approach on tackling social fraud. So a very integrated approach by setting up, for instance, by using an action plan for the fight against social fraud. As you know, in Belgium, the construction sector is a very important sector. You can compare it with the transport sector in the eastern and the southeast countries in Europe. For us, construction, very important. So tackling social fraud in the construction sector in Belgium is also related to the issue of the supply chain. As you know, we have quite a lot of subcontractors. We have a supply chain that goes very deep. So you can imagine that one of the biggest challenges is clearly to identify who is the real employer actually on the construction site. That's one of the most important things that we are dealing with. Of course, effective tools like digitalization are necessary within each step as what we call the so-called enforcement chain. So from prevention, detection, control, inspection, and of course also the recovery of, for instance, social contributions. We believe that online, and we see it also, that online registration tools, by using them, we can identify target groups, we can identify phenomena, fraud phenomena, we can identify trends, we can actually have targets for doing controls, and of course, digitalization, you have to see it together with limit capacity on the ground. If you don't have a lot of inspectors, then of course digitalization is also an opportunity for having your more effective controls on the ground, giving your limited inspection capacity. It goes and of course it comes together. We have a long tradition in setting up digitalization in Belgium. I think that everybody is aware with the so-called crossroad banks for social security, where we exchange, it's a little bit like the ESCTE as presented by the previous speaker, that we are combining databases and we are not actually sharing them by sending them. No, we are connecting them, and that's one of the most important achievements of the so-called crossroad. So you asked me what an overview of the different elements that we have in Belgium. We have quite a lot, so I will limit it. We have something new. We are trying to we are using this elements, we are trying to optimize them. We have a so-called My Digital Assistant. So that's a digital application on their smartphones, and it helps the inspectors on the ground, on the field, to request the necessary information online in real time during an inspection, and to capture also a report on it. Of course, you can imagine it makes our inspections more effective, allows us the necessary data to be verified through real-time consultation. It's easy in use, allows information to be retrieved and consulted from a wide variety of places. Previously, we have printed and we have to connect within our database through a computer. Now we have it on our on our smartphones. It can also be consulted with the other social inspectorates. And of course, one of the biggest challenges is also the only once principle. So you don't have to try to ask a number of information of the employer. No, you have it already by using the only once principle in advance. My digital assistant, we have also in the construction sector, the so-called checking at work. It's an online service for the attendance registration of anyone working on a work site whose contract costs or exceeds more than 500,000 euro. It involves the registrations of employers and contractors and also their employees. The registration must be daily done and before the person carrying out the work starts to work. There's also a declaration, what we call the declaration of work. So there's a link between those information. So the contract and the registration on the field, you can do data matching between them. Of course, we also have our so-called Limosa. Actually, it's a bird for those who are interested. It's a bird, a migration bird. So you can see already the purpose. The Limosa is a tool that anyone who's coming to Belgium, who's working in Belgium from a foreign country has to be registered in the so-called Limosa system. It could be an employer, an agent, or a self-employed person. You need to declare this work. For the self-employed, due to European Commission regulations, rules, infringements, procedure, whatever, the self-employed, it's only the obligation only applies with high-risk sectors. It's a little bit pity that it's the case, but then again, we have to comply with the European legislation. Then we have the so-called DMONA system, the prior declaration. It's an electronic message through which the employer declares every entry and exit of an employee to our organization of the NSSO. It's not our organization, but another institution, social security institution. It's mandatory for all public and private public sectors. So my DA deconsolidates all these different information from Limosa, DMONA, checking at work in one tool, and then we can have this actually on the ground. This is new, this is relatively new. You asked me what are the challenges? Yeah, quite a lot. Huh? By using digitalization, you have to have the knowledge, the skills, and my example is the best example. I have not the skills. You have to have the means. It's normally costly. You have to have the time for building this up. You have to have good quality of data. You have to have valid data. Your data should be accurate. There's also the principle of interoperability. It's a very difficult word, but it means, are we saying the same things when we are talking about an employer in Belgium? Is it the same as in Portugal? What does it mean? The interoperability between the databases. It has to be easy in use. There's also legal issues, privacy already mentioned by a couple of speakers. Of course, you're also dependent, it's also a challenge, dependent on the input side. If there's nothing in the input, yeah, then you can't do on data matching, data mining, or whatever. We have to also be aware within Europe that we could have a two-speed Europe those countries that have quite a lot of things like Belgium and other countries, I'm not going to say anything about another country, but you can imagine that a two-speed European Union within this digitalization is perhaps not only is also a challenge. Another big challenge is to tackle the undetected. If you're not in databases, how on earth will you going to detect them? So that means you always have to have people on the ground, social inspectorates, for doing and conducting inspections in areas or on construction sites that are not being declared. So to detect the so-called undetected. One of the biggest challenges is also the identification of the people. We have in our country an identification key that is throughout Belgium used. The ESSS pass is also a little bit a key, if we can compare it like that. Opportunities related to the enforcement chain is to detect better things, to predict. Also fraud. We have in Belgium predictive analysis models and so on. It works 2 times faster than actually an inspector can see on the ground. 3 times it can detect 3 times more or better complex situations than an inspector on the ground. He doesn't have the complete overview to compare to digitalization. You can use this digitalization to prevent, of course, fraudulent situation. You could also use it, as we do it in Belgium, to control, to actually conduct inspections on the ground. And of course, perhaps it's not really here the purpose to say, but then again, I believe in it. It's also about a matter of trust. If you have data that is qualitative and good and reliable and whatever, also the social partners that are involved, the employer side, the employees, and also the social funds and so on. If you have good data, you can build up trust in a government that is very good and accurate and can avoid, for instance, double inspections on the field and so on and so on. So I truly believe this is good. You also asked me, I believe, what is artificial intelligence and the difficulties with that. Of course, artificial intelligence and all blockchain and so on, very good, but you have to have the both of them. You have to have inspectors on the ground, and of course, artificial intelligence can never replace an inspector. Never. It's only a signal of possible fraudulent situations, and you have to be very aware that it's not a computer that's going to make the decision. It's you as an inspector. It's help. It's a tool. It's not more than that. But of course, it's a very effective tool, and we should always have the knowledge of the business together with the knowledge of the computers, the IT guys, and together we can have a very good impact on tackling undeclared work. So, Chair, hopefully this was useful. I was staying within my 10 minutes, 20 minutes due to the technical problems I have. Sorry for that again.
Bart, no problem at all. And thank you again for your participation. Is always very much appreciated. And for the insights. Very also relevant to hear that the human element is always needed also in this time of digital and technological revolution. Thank you very much, Bart. And I would like now to give the floor, as said before, to the European Labour Authority. So I close formally this round table, and we can move to Federico and Sara. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. I'm very much aware that I'm the last obstacle between you and your lunch, so we'll be very, very quick in just presenting, first of all, thanking the organizers for having thought about involving the European Labour Authority to this topic and interventions that we could hear are speaking to our activities, or at least to some of our activities. And I would like to briefly mention a couple of upcoming activities that may be interesting for cooperation with the Paritarian institutions at large and Social Security Institute and the usual set of labor authorities and social security authorities that we are to cooperate with. First of all, we would like to say that in 2023, so more or less 10 days from now, we are going to, ELA is going to go more in depth on the construction sector. So it's going to devote more efforts and more investments in tackling enforcement issues of labor mobility legislation in the construction sector. It's work in progress, meaning that we have started doing some preparatory work, including drafting a report, which is yet to be completed, but outlining the challenges in the cooperation in the construction sector from different points of view. What ELA is normally active about are basically three big pillars: information to citizens and employers about the rights and obligations set by EU and national labor mobility law legislation, and cooperation between national administrations at large, so meaning also social partners, and in this case, I think Paritarian institutions are quite important for this scope, and enforcement, meaning especially the support and coordination of concerted and joint inspections. And our objective is next year to be more active with all of these tasks in the construction sector. Two things that certainly will catch your attention are the fact that we are intending to launch an information campaign on the rights and obligations of workers in the construction sector all across Europe. So this is going to be work that is currently ongoing in the preparatory phase, and then will progressively go up towards the national authorities and the social partners. So you will be for certain involved in the making of this campaign, and also the thinking about this campaign. And the second thing is, of course, inspections, because we are going to devote to encourage the member states and to provide as many tools as possible for the member states to address issues related to the construction sector. Clearly, we base ourselves on the work, and since Bart is here around us, and on the work of the European platform tackling undeclared work, which has done quite some important work, also recently on supply chains. And we have other tools, some are more easy to explain, some others less. What I wanted to stress is that the European Labour Authority will launch very soon a mutual learning program on the posting of workers, which we would like to initiate by addressing cooperation issues on the construction sector. This mutual learning program is particularly important because it's going to fulfill some of the functions that the former expert committee on the posting of workers was carrying out. But it's going to be also an important tool through which we're going to try and integrate different insights from digital tools. And I think that the last half an hour of this meeting was very telling of the different possibilities and opportunities that digitalization has offered to enforcers and the social partners in order to make sure that legislation is properly applied. There are many tools. And what we are finding out through our activities is that not all authorities and social partners who are supposed to work with different tools are aware of the the whole set of tools, or are using correctly the whole set of tools that the European Union has so far put up. And there is also, I think, a set of national tools that have been set up, which, as Bart was mentioning, beg for more interoperability. That, the Portuguese system and the Polish system are not islands on themselves, but they can talk to one another and can be used for inspectors and national authorities at large to cooperate with one another. So I would like just to mention these three main things. So the information campaign, work on cooperation between administrations, and inspections as three main pillars on which the work of ELA will deploy next year. And of course, I would like to thank you for your invitation, and reassure you that the Paritarian institutions, we consider Paritarian institutions a very important actor in this process, and we are looking forward to cooperating with you in over 2023, but especially beyond 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Federico. And yeah, we also look forward to cooperate with you, and I hope you don't take this as a threat, but we will be, I hope, in touch in the near future for all the points that you mentioned during this interesting presentation. So thank you again for being here, and I would move now I would give the floor to Giovanni Carapella for policy recommendations, a wrap-up session, and greetings for this conference. So Giovanni, the floor is yours.
Sì, cercherò di essere brevissimo. Se riusciamo a proiettare le slide con Feliciano, le mettiamo in formato tutto schermo, per cortesia, Feliciano. Allora, dunque, cercherò di essere rapido, parlo in italiano così vado più veloce. Noi abbiamo provato a fare delle slide di sintesi che andranno poi arricchite dalle cose interessantissime che sono uscite oggi, soprattutto in questa terza tavola rotonda che ha visto coinvolto l'INPS per l'Italia e Bart per il Belgio, che ringrazio molto, nonché il contributo fondamentale di Pancaldi dell'ELA. Io voglio, come CNCE, a nome del partenariato, ringraziare l'ELA per la collaborazione, per la stima e per la disponibilità che ha sempre avuto nei nostri confronti. Allora, sostanzialmente noi che cosa abbiamo fatto? Abbiamo analizzato un contesto, quello delle costruzioni, che già ha una criticità strutturale, e questa criticità strutturale sono aumentate, sono state evidenziate di più nei periodi del lockdown e della pandemia. Abbiamo visto come i controlli di regolarità, il fabbisogno aggiuntivo di informazione e formazione, le politiche di salute, sicurezza e sorveglianza sanitaria siano state al centro di misure aggiuntive durante la pandemia. Se possiamo andare avanti, Feliciano. L'impatto sui cantieri è stato importante, ed è stato, diciamo, importante soprattutto nei cantieri internazionali. Che cosa emerge? Che servono alcune buone pratiche. Quali sono queste buone pratiche in breve? Più informazioni, è stato detto ampiamente oggi, anche con gli esempi che sono stati illustrati da Jacob, da Bart e da Johanna e così via, e dai colleghi della SOKA. Un'informazione che deve essere accessibile, multilingue, facile, specifica e calibrata sui rischi e le condizioni di contesto in cui il lavoratore che lavora all'estero va ad operare. Serve inoltre più educazione alla prevenzione ed azioni di sorveglianza sanitaria come è stato evidenziato chiaramente con le campagne di vaccinazione, che in Italia, ad esempio, per decisione delle parti sociali, in alcuni luoghi hanno utilizzato le sedi, le scuole edili, sedi della bilateralità, ad esempio all'Aquila, come struttura vaccinale per tutta la popolazione della città e della provincia dell'Aquila. Possiamo andare avanti. Feliciano? Serve poi più pianificazione dettagliata nelle azioni di mobilità, l'intervento dell'INPS su questo è stato molto chiaro, informazioni preventive, accoglienza, collaborazione tra istituzioni e organismi paritari e con interlocuzione positiva con i sistemi pubblici. Su questo io ricordo ai partner le raccomandazioni contenute nel report finale e nell'handbook del progetto Yes che abbiamo terminato a marzo di quest'anno. Andiamo avanti. Rispetto a questo contesto specifico, informazione e formazione, salute, sicurezza, prevenzione e sorveglianza sanitaria, cooperazione e interoperabilità tra i organismi e dati, innovazione, digitalizzazione, semplificazione, ne abbiamo tratto fuori tutti insieme delle keywords per le future raccomandazioni. Andiamo avanti, Feliciano, scusami. Allora, innanzitutto informazione e formazione. Nell'EU Kit finale, noi mettendo insieme i casi di studio dei vari paesi esaminati, proviamo a buttare giù in multilingua una sorta di protocollo di sicurezza, prevenzione e sorveglianza sanitaria. Dal punto di vista dell'informazione sono state citate qui le esperienze italiane, ma anche i contact point realizzati in Spagna, Polonia e in Germania con le telephone free hotlines, ma anche con i limiti che hanno avuto queste esperienze. Andiamo avanti. Sulla salute, sicurezza e sorveglianza sanitaria abbiamo visto con l'esperienza spagnola e asturiana le visite di cantieri, aggiungerei quella italiana dove sono stati coinvolti i rappresentanti dei lavoratori per la sicurezza, soprattutto gli RLST, rappresentanti territoriali che intervengono nelle piccole e medie aziende che sono la maggior parte della rete delle aziende dell'edilizia nel nostro paese, e il coinvolgimento diretto di questi organismi anche nel mettere a disposizione con azioni di solidarietà della bilateralità, ad esempio le mascherine, gli igienizzanti, gli altri DP, nonché i cartelli informativi. È stata resa evidente negli interventi dei colleghi portoghesi il tema da affrontare, probabilmente su cui saranno le autorità europee a dover normare, che è quello della regolamentazione della quarantena e anche del rimborso alle imprese e al lavoratore dei periodi della quarantena. Sulla cooperazione tra organismi e per la tutela del lavoro regolare, nel corso del progetto sono stati analizzati ad esempio il Corona Task Force tra Germania, Olanda e Belgio. Abbiamo affrontato con un workshop italiano, e ringrazio la collega e i colleghi del Friuli Venezia Giulia, il caso di Gorizia come emblematico di una città che sta sulla frontiera e quindi ha una specificità di contesto di lavoro transfrontaliere, e viene analizzato nel report il tema dell'assistenza legale ai lavoratori distaccati e del supporto sociale e psicologico, anche fatto di mediazione, supporto linguistico e logistico per chi si trova in un contesto straniero durante un'emergenza, una pandemia o altro tipo di emergenza, e che quindi si trova poi dentro una sorta di spaesamento a cui deve seguire evidentemente una serie di supporti e di aiuti sociali e non solo. Andiamo avanti. Sia al seminario di Bologna, al SAI, ringrazio tutti quelli che sono venuti di persona e tutti quelli che hanno seguito poi sul canale YouTube e sul sito di EMEcs i risultati del bellissimo, interessantissimo seminario di Bologna a cui ha partecipato l'Ispettorato Nazionale del Lavoro Italiano ai massimi vertici. Voglio ringraziare pubblicamente qui il dottor Giordano, direttore generale, e il dottor Orazio Parisi, che hanno partecipato personalmente all'iniziativa di Bologna. La digitalizzazione. Allora, qui esiste un tema evidentemente di maggiore circolazione di dati, anche al fine di semplificare la vita alle imprese. Le imprese regolari hanno bisogno che, proprio per stare in regola, abbiano una vita semplificata. Abbiamo esaminato alcune app dedicate, alcuni strumenti come Check di Brescia in Italia vista appunto a Bologna, la personal card che Marta Viapano per la Fondazione Laborale di Asturias ha presentato ampiamente nel seminario di Bologna. Per i lavoratori, se andiamo avanti Feliciano, ovviamente si rende necessario quello che dicevano più interventi, soprattutto Gas. Noi dobbiamo rafforzare le competenze digitali dei lavoratori, perché è chiaro che possiamo aumentare l'offerta di formazione online gratuita e di breve durata sui rischi e soprattutto con aggiornamento sui rischi. Possiamo usare consapevolmente forme di apprendimento long life learning certificate, additive, aggiuntive alla formazione di base obbligatoria, però servono più competenze digitali. E poi esiste, lo diceva Lisa nel suo bell'intervento, io confermo questo, no? Questa esigenza di sfruttare di più ruolo, potenzialità dei social media anche come strumento per non solo per fornire dall'alto informazioni a chi si collega a quei canali, ma anche per consentire uno scambio di informazioni e pratiche lavorative in sicurezza e corretta orizzontali, scambio di esperienza tra lavoratori, dirigenti di imprese, imprese artigiani, in maniera da potenziare l'approccio multicanale, come lo chiamava giustamente Lisa. Andiamo avanti. Per gli organismi paritari e le istituzioni, qui c'è il punto centrale. Un vecchio adagio degli statistici ci dice che i dati, per essere utili, devono essere pochi, omogenei, interscambiabili, ci aggiungiamo, come ha detto Bart, interoperabili, condivisi su piattaforme comuni. Spesso questi dati non li abbiamo o li abbiamo molto eterogenei e non comunicanti. Questo è un punto fondamentale anche per contrastare meglio azioni di intermediazione illegale di manodopera che pure esistono. E quindi questo è un dato che noi raccomandiamo come alle autorità europee, alle parti sociali europee, ma anche a lei la stessa per questo anno importante che dedicherà al settore delle costruzioni. Andiamo avanti. Abbiamo esaminato gli accordi bilaterali, lo scambio di dati che avviene, ad esempio l'accordo solido tra SOKA e CNCE, che è stato tra Germania e Italia ulteriormente aggiornato, ma anche accordi multilaterali che esistono. Abbiamo visto come è importante dare forza all'European Social Security Pass, ma soprattutto noi vogliamo ringraziare l'ELA per l'attenzione, ma anche dire che bisogna potenziare il ruolo delle istituzioni europee come ELA e social partner, appunto per far circolare i dati, ma anche per diffondere informazione accessibile a tutti in formato user friendly, facile e comprensibile nelle lingue giuste dei destinatari. Abbiamo concluso. Oggi termina la fase di lavoro pubblico del progetto. Io voglio ringraziare chi ha partecipato, tutti, in particolare le casse edili italiane presenti, gli esperti, i partner, gli interlocutori di vari paesi. Oggi sono presenti rappresentanti di 10 paesi e questa è una cosa molto importante per noi, le autorità europee, le parti sociali nazionali ed europee. Abbiamo avuto solo 4 momenti di incontro in presenza, il kick-off a Roma nel 2020, poi c'è stata la pandemia, il focus group a Verona nelle giornate nazionali della CNCE nel 2021 e poi 2 incontri del 2022 a Wiesbaden e Bologna. Però è stato un costante, continuo lavoro in comune e confronto in rete. Voglio ringraziare in particolare i colleghi Bianca Baron e Feliciano Iudicone e Giacomo Virgilio in particolare, che aveva cominciato quando era ancora un nostro collega, ora lavora per i sindacati italiani, a impostare questo progetto. Ne è nato un patrimonio di rapporti, relazioni e lavori comuni di cui come CNCE, organismo coordinatore del progetto, siamo orgogliosi. Quindi grazie a tutti voi per quanto siamo riusciti a fare e speriamo che sia questo progetto uno stimolo ad avere nuove attività da fare insieme anche con nuovi partner, tra cui gli interlocutori che hanno parlato oggi nel 2023 negli anni a seguire. Queste slide che aggiusteremo le tradurremo in inglese e tramite Feliciano le faremo avere a tutti i partner. Grazie a tutti e buone feste, buon anno nuovo e buon Natale e buone festività religiose a tutti.
Thank you very much, Giovanni, for this wrap-up session and for the greetings. I would like also to join you in thanking all the project partners, to thank participants of the conference, to thank also the entities, the bodies involved, Feliciano and I, for interviews, so EMEcs, the European Trade Union Confederation and the Labour Mobility Initiative. And yeah, also would like to wish to all of you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And just ask to project partners if they can stay connected for 5 minutes more. And I close officially the conference. Thank you very much.